Welcome. In the stillness of tonight, you will come across a gentle yet profound practice, a method used by Buddhist monks for centuries to calm the restless mind and invite true peaceful rest. Amid the fast pace of our modern lives, it's easy to get swept up in the noise and the constant buzz around us. Our thoughts race, worries multiply, and the world can feel overwhelming. But what if right now there's a way to find stillness? A simple, serene path that leads you back to peace, clarity, and inner calm, without strain, without rushing. Stay with me, and let's uncover this path together. You'll soon discover how easy it can be to find that quiet transformation, even in the midst of a busy world. Before we begin, take a moment to make yourself comfortable. If this space brings you peace, feel free to like and subscribe so we can continue this journey together. And while you're here, I invite you to share where you're tuning in from and the time of day where you are. It's beautiful to know that across different places we are connected by this shared moment of stillness and mindfulness. Now find your spot, whether you're sitting or lying down. Let your body gently sink into the surface beneath you, feeling the supportive embrace of your pillow chair or bed. Close your eyes softly and begin to tune into how your body feels right now. Feel the weight of your body supported by the earth beneath you. Take a deep, slow breath with me. Inhale deeply and exhale gently. With every exhale, let go of any tension you might be holding on to. Release the worries, the mental clutter, and the weight of the day. Let your breath guide you further into relaxation. Now notice the warmth in the air around you. Maybe there's a soft breeze or the peaceful hum of the world outside. Let these sensations melt into your experience. With each passing moment, feel your body soften further, letting the rhythm of your breath carry you deeper into calmness. This is your time now. Time to rest. Time to heal. Time to reflect. Over the next hour, we'll journey together through 15 timeless Zen stories, each offering wisdom, stillness, and deep teachings. Passed down through generations, these stories have helped countless people quiet their minds, open their hearts, and find true peace. Like whispers from the past, they will gently guide us in the present. As you settle into this peaceful space, allow yourself to be fully present. Feel the weight of your body relaxing further, the softness of your breath deepening, bringing you further into stillness. Let my words flow like a gentle stream of water, soothing and calming as the stories reach deep into your soul. These stories are here for you. They offer insights that have the power to change the way you see yourself, the world, and the very essence of life itself. Each one will peel back a layer, bringing you closer to the peace, understanding, and connection within. Let's begin our journey with the first story. And as we begin, know that in this moment you are safe, you are at peace, and you are exactly where you need to be. High in the mist-shrouded mountains, far away from the clamor of the world, stood a quiet Zen monastery. Surrounded by tall pines that whispered secrets to the wind, the monastery was a place where time seemed to move slower, and the world outside was nothing but a distant echo. The air here was thick with the scent of moss and incense, and the ground was soft with the dust of centuries. The only sounds were the rustling of leaves, the occasional call of a bird, and the gentle rhythm of life lived simply without haste. It was in this peaceful refuge that an old Zen master named Ian resided. His name, which meant eternity, was a reflection of the stillness that he embodied. He did not speak much, nor did he follow the conventional methods of teaching. There were no long sermons or theoretical debates in Ian's monastery. Instead, he lived simply sweeping the courtyard, staring into the sky, or tending to the delicate plants that flourished in the quiet garden. His way of teaching was silent, profound, and subtle. The disciples who came to seek Ian's wisdom were often surprised. They came with minds full of questions, expecting long discussions and immediate answers. But instead, they left the monastery with more questions than when they arrived. Their minds stirred in ways they couldn't quite understand. In the silence of the mountains, they began to confront their own restless thoughts, their own expectations, and their deep, unspoken thirst for truth. One day, a young scholar named Haru arrived at the monastery eager to find the answers to the philosophical and spiritual questions that had troubled him for years. Haru was a man of vast knowledge. He had spent many years immersed in the study of philosophy, logic, and ancient scriptures. He had read countless books, listened to hours of lectures, and practiced various forms of meditation. His mind was a vast ocean of information, constantly churning with ideas, theories, and concepts. Yet, despite all his learning, Haru felt a deep sense of dissatisfaction. The more he learned, the more restless he became, as though he were drowning in a sea of knowledge without ever finding the peace he sought. When Haru approached Master Ian, he spoke with confidence, certain that the Zen master's teachings would offer the final answers he had been seeking. "Master," he said, "I have come to learn the truth of Zen." Without saying a word, Ian smiled gently and gestured toward a low wooden table that stood near the window. The sun filtered through the trees outside, casting a warm golden light across the room. Ian motioned for Haru to sit. "Would you like some tea?" he asked in his soft, steady voice. Haru, eager for any ritual or practice that might bring him closer to the wisdom he sought, nodded eagerly. "Yes, master," he replied, thinking this might be part of the lesson, a ritual that would open the door to enlightenment. But what happened next was something Haru had not anticipated. Ian picked up the small tea kettle and began to pour the tea into a delicate porcelain cup. But he did not stop. He continued pouring and pouring the tea, spilling over the rim of the cup, splashing onto the table, and running in thin streams onto the floor. Master Haru cried, his voice filled with surprise. "The cup is full. Why do you keep pouring?" Ian calmly set the kettle down, his gaze gentle but steady. He looked Haru in the eyes, his voice soft, yet carrying the weight of deep understanding. "Like this cup, you are full," he said. "How can I give you anything if you do not first empty yourself?" Haru stood frozen, unsure of how to respond. His mind, which was always filled with thoughts and theories, began to quiet for the first time. The master's words had pierced through the cacophony of ideas that crowded his mind. For the first time, he realized that his thirst for knowledge was like the overflowing cup full of theories, concepts, and expectations. It was only by emptying this cup, by letting go of his preconceived ideas, that he could make room for true wisdom. The next few days passed in a haze of confusion and contemplation for Haru. He had expected that Master Ian would provide answers, that the way to enlightenment would be straightforward. But instead, Ian asked him to sit in silence, to sweep the floor, to tend to the garden, and to engage in simple, everyday tasks. There were no deep philosophical discussions, no immediate teachings, only silence, only simple actions performed with full attention. Haru found this frustrating. He had come to the monastery expecting to find clarity, but instead, his mind was only filled with more questions. The more he tried to quiet his mind, the more thoughts seemed to rush in like a river swollen with rain. Every time he tried to empty his mind, new thoughts appeared, pushing him further into confusion. One afternoon, Haru could bear it no longer. Frustration bubbled over and he burst out, "This is ridiculous. You don't teach. You don't correct me. You just sweep, stir soup, and talk to flowers." Ian, calm as ever, looked at Haru with a quiet smile. He did not respond with anger or frustration, but instead asked, "Do you see this broom?" His voice was steady, not harsh, but with a depth that Haru hadn't yet understood. "Yes," Haru replied, his breath shallow with impatience. "I see it." "When I sweep the floor," Ian continued, "I do not think of dust. I do not think of cleanliness. I do not think of Zen. I simply sweep." Haru's mind began to slow. For the first time, he realized the simplicity of what Ian was saying. Zen was not about adding more knowledge, more ideas, or more techniques. It was about being fully present in each moment, without attachment to thoughts or expectations. It was about doing each action with complete awareness, with full attention to the present moment. The next morning, Haru woke early as the sun's first light filtered softly through the trees. He stepped outside into the cool, crisp air, feeling the earth beneath his feet, the soft morning mist still clinging to the mountainside. He paused, taking in the stillness. His mind, which had once been a storm of thoughts, was now quiet, not empty, not full, just open. It was as though the floodgates had opened, and for the first time Haru felt the calm he had been seeking. As he walked through the garden, his eyes fell upon an old plum tree that stood at the edge of the courtyard. Its gnarled branches reached toward the sky, the leaves trembling in the gentle breeze. Beneath the tree, Haru noticed something that caught his eye. A single white blossom, delicate and soft, had fallen from the tree and landed in the teacup that Ian had left on the table the night before. The tea was still unmoving, as if it had been waiting for him all along. Haru picked up the cup and brought it to his lips. The tea, though it had been sitting for hours, tasted like nothing. It tasted like everything, like the air, the earth, the stillness of the mountains, and the quiet of his mind. In that moment, Haru understood. The true wisdom of Zen was not in adding more knowledge or in seeking answers from the outside world. It was in emptying himself of expectations, of theories, and of distractions so that he could be fully present with life as it was. The cup, like his mind, could only hold the true essence of wisdom once it had been emptied of everything else. Haru had spent so much time seeking answers outside of himself, but now he realized that the answers had always been within him, waiting to be discovered. This story teaches us the profound importance of emptying our minds in order to receive true wisdom. Just as the teacup needed to be emptied before it could hold more tea, our minds, too, must be emptied of preconceived notions, distractions, and expectations before we can truly experience the world as it is. Only then can we make space for new understanding, much like the teacup that must be emptied before it can be refilled with the wisdom of the moment. In our busy world where the constant hum of notifications, to-do lists, and endless thoughts can easily overwhelm us, it is easy to lose touch with the simplicity and peace that lies within. As Buddha once said, "Your work is to discover your work, and then, with all your heart, to give yourself to it." This work, as Buddha teaches, is not about accumulating more or filling our minds with more knowledge and distractions. Rather, it is about uncovering the stillness and clarity already within us by clearing away the clutter, allowing space for our true purpose to emerge. The more we let go of the noise, the more we can hear the quiet, still voice of wisdom. In the modern world, we often fill our minds with endless thoughts, desires, and information. We are constantly consuming, scrolling through social media, reading, absorbing, and striving for more. But true peace and wisdom come when we allow ourselves to let go of this mental clutter and simply be present. This presence is what brings us closer to the truth of who we are. Simple activities such as meditation, mindfulness, or even the act of sweeping the floor or tending to a garden can be incredibly powerful practices to help us clear our minds and reconnect with the present moment. These ordinary moments done with full presence can teach us more than any book or lecture ever could. As you reflect on this, take a moment now to reflect on your own life. Are there areas where your mind feels too full, where it is too busy with thoughts, worries, or expectations? What could you let go of to create space for peace and clarity? Perhaps, like Haru, you might find that the more you empty your mind, the more room there is for wisdom, joy, and calmness to fill you. In doing so, you'll uncover the deep inner peace that has always been there, waiting to be discovered. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. Buddha's words ring true here. Our thoughts shape our experiences. By letting go of the mental clutter that fills our minds, we allow ourselves to become the peaceful, wise beings we are meant to be. Let us now turn to our next story, which speaks of an unexpected lesson learned from a bell atop a mountain. The sun had already begun its descent beyond the horizon, casting a soft golden hue over the vast expanse of the mountains. High up on Mount Urin, nestled amidst the towering trees and fog, a small Zen monastery stood as quiet as the mountain itself. The air was fresh, filled with the earthy scent of pine and damp moss. The gentle rustle of leaves in the wind blended harmoniously with the distant calls of birds, and the ground beneath was covered with a carpet of soft, velvety moss. It was here that the monks practiced their meditation, following the rhythm of nature itself. At this particular monastery, there was a bell, large and old, cast from a mixture of iron and bronze. It hung in the center of the courtyard, suspended by thick weathered ropes. This bell, although it had no voice of its own, carried a powerful sound that could be heard for miles around. When struck, it rang with a deep, resonant tone that echoed through the valley below, stirring the very air with its vibrations. However, unlike other bells that simply made sound, this one had a reputation for being different. It was known as the angry bell. The monks, who had long practiced the art of mindfulness and calm, had learned to approach the bell with great care and reverence. They knew that the bell, much like their own minds, was sensitive and volatile. When struck with impatience or anger, its sound would reverberate with a harsh, discordant tone that disturbed the peaceful harmony of the monastery. It was as if the bell could mirror the emotional state of the one who rang it. One day, a young monk named Yoshi, full of idealism and a desire to be enlightened, found himself consumed by frustration. Despite all the time he had spent at the monastery, despite all the hours of meditation and practice, Yoshi felt that he was getting nowhere. His mind was restless, his body was tired, and his patience was running thin. The teachings of the Zen master seemed elusive, like wisps of smoke that he could not catch. His progress seemed slow, and the calmness he so desperately sought felt like a distant dream. That evening, as the sun began to set and the evening bell was due to be struck, Yoshi stood in the courtyard. The bell tower loomed before him, casting a long shadow on the ground. The monks had always struck the bell with a deep meditative presence, using the bell as a tool to ground their practice. But tonight, Yoshi was not in a state of calm. He was agitated, frustrated, and full of inner turmoil. He wanted nothing more than to release the tension inside him. Without thinking, he grabbed the rope and struck the bell with a force that startled the entire monastery. The sound that came from the bell was unlike any other. It was not the usual deep, resonant tone. Instead, it was a harsh, jarring clamor, as if the bell itself was enraged. The monks inside the monastery winced at the sound, and the surrounding birds took flight in alarm, their wings cutting through the still evening air. Yoshi stepped back, his heart pounding in his chest as the vibrations of the bell echoed through the valley below. Master Kai, the head of the monastery, appeared silently at Yoshi's side. His presence was so calm, so still, that it was as though he had materialized from the very air itself. He did not speak immediately. Instead, he simply watched Yoshi, his gaze gentle yet piercing. The two stood there in silence, the echoes of the bell still lingering in the air. Finally, Master Kai spoke. "Yoshi," he said softly, "do you hear the bell?" Yoshi, his mind still spinning with frustration, nodded. "Yes, Master." It rang loudly, angrily. Master Kai looked at the bell with a calm expression. "That bell," he said, "does not have the ability to make sound on its own. It is simply a tool. The sound it produces depends on how it is struck, just as the sound of our lives depends on the way we strike them with our thoughts and emotions. The bell reflects your inner state. When struck with impatience, anger, or frustration, it produces a discordant sound. But when struck with patience and calmness, it sings a harmonious tone." Yoshi's eyes widened as he understood the depth of the lesson. His frustration, his inner turmoil had caused the bell to ring in a way that disturbed the peace, just as his own agitated mind disturbed his inner peace. The sound of the bell was a reflection of his own state of mind. The bell, Master Kai continued, is like your mind. It carries whatever emotion you place upon it. When you are angry or restless, your thoughts create the same disharmony. But when you are calm, centered, and present, the world around you becomes more harmonious. You must learn to strike the bell of your mind with mindfulness, with patience, with awareness. Yoshi stood silently, his heart slowly quieting as he absorbed the lesson. For the first time, he understood that his frustrations were not obstacles to his practice, but mirrors of the mental states he needed to transform. It was not about trying to control or suppress his emotions, but about understanding them and learning to approach them with calmness and presence. The more he could quiet the storm inside, the more his actions, his very being, would resonate with harmony. Over the next few weeks, Yoshi practiced with a new understanding. Every time he approached the bell, he was mindful of his emotions, striking it gently with reverence. The sound that followed was soft, deep, and harmonious, a beautiful reflection of the peace he had begun to cultivate within himself. And with each strike of the bell, he felt a little more connected to the calmness he had been seeking for so long. This story offers us a profound lesson about emotional awareness and the transformative power of mindfulness in shaping how we react to the world. Like the bell, our minds are vessels that carry the imprints of the emotions we experience. Every time we experience anger, frustration, or impatience, we strike the bell of our minds with that energy, and it resonates outward, affecting our actions, our relationships, and even our sense of inner peace. The sound that follows, whether harmonious or discordant, is not just the result of external circumstances, but of how we choose to respond to those circumstances. In contrast, when we approach life with patience, calmness, and mindfulness, the sound we produce is much more gentle. Our actions are filled with intention and clarity, and the world around us seems to resonate in harmony. Just as the bell's tone depends entirely on how it is struck, the way we interact with the world shapes our experience of it. If we bring mindfulness to our actions, our world becomes a reflection of that peace. As the great Zen master Dogen once said, "When we walk, we walk. When we eat, we eat. When we sleep, we sleep." This is the true meaning of the practice of Zen. Dogen reminds us that every moment is an opportunity for practice. Every step we take, every breath we draw, and every thought we allow to pass through our minds can be an act of mindfulness. It is not just about sitting in meditation. it is about bringing presence to each moment of our lives. Every word, every gesture, every act can either contribute to peace or perpetuate dissonance, depending on how we choose to approach it. In today's fast-paced world, where stress, expectations, and frustrations often bombard us, it can feel impossible to find peace. But we hold the power to change how we respond. By embracing mindfulness, we can choose to respond to challenges with greater awareness and presence. This doesn't mean we will never feel frustration or anger. It means we will not allow these emotions to control us. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can allow ourselves to pause, to breathe, and to act from a place of calmness. As Buddha wisely taught, "You will not be punished for your anger, you will be punished by your anger." This is the key. Our reactions to life are what create our suffering, not the events themselves. If we allow ourselves to be consumed by anger or frustration, we are only adding fuel to the fire of our own turmoil. But if we choose to strike the bell of our minds with mindfulness, we can find peace even in the midst of chaos. Now take a moment to reflect on your own life. Consider the moments when you have felt frustration, impatience, or anger. How have these emotions influenced your actions and your relationships? Are there areas in your life where these emotions have created disharmony? Now ask yourself, what would it look like if you approached these situations with mindfulness and presence instead of reacting impulsively? How might your response to life's challenges shift if you paused, took a breath, and allowed your actions to be guided by calmness and awareness? Remember, just as the bell responds to the way it is struck, so too does your life respond to the way you approach it. You have the power to choose the tone of your own life. With mindfulness, you can transform frustration into patience, anger into understanding, and dissonance into harmony. Let us now turn to our next story, which reveals a surprising lesson from a leaf clinging to its branch, showing us the importance of accepting the natural flow of life. In the stillness of autumn, as the mountains began to change color, a leaf clung desperately to the branch of an ancient tree at the edge of the Zen monastery. The air was crisp, and the gentle wind carried the scent of pine and earth. As the leaves of the trees around it turned brilliant shades of red and gold, this one stubborn leaf, still green, held on with all its might. Its edges were beginning to curl, and its stem seemed fragile, yet it refused to fall. Monks passed by the tree every day, noticing the leaf, but saying nothing. It became something of an oddity, a leaf that had overstayed its time holding onto the branch, while others had already drifted to the ground. As the days went by, the leaf grew weaker, the wind more persistent. The leaf trembled with each gust, but it did not fall. It seemed to resist the natural course of the seasons, holding on desperately to its place, its home on the branch. One morning, as the monks gathered in the courtyard to meditate, a young monk named Sato noticed the stubborn leaf. He observed it for a long time, his mind quiet but curious. He watched as the leaf in its fragile state clung even tighter to the branch with each passing wind. As he sat there, his eyes fixed on the leaf, Master Kai approached him, sensing the young monk's contemplation. Sato turned to the master, his voice filled with quiet wonder. "Master, why does the leaf not fall? The wind has tried so many times to take it, yet it holds on. Is it afraid? Is it waiting for something?" Master Kai, with a gentle smile, looked toward the tree and the leaf. His voice was calm, steady, like the wind that whispered through the branches. The leaf clings because it is afraid of letting go. It believes that falling is a loss, that it will be lost forever if it lets go of the branch. But in reality, the leaf has already fulfilled its purpose. It has been nourished by the tree. It has danced in the sun and the rain, and it has lived its life. It is only by letting go, by surrendering to the flow of life, that the leaf can truly return to the earth, where it can nurture new life. Sato's brow furrowed, and he looked back at the leaf which still clung stubbornly to its branch. But Master, if the leaf lets go, what happens then? What if it falls and is lost? Master Kai placed a hand on Sato's shoulder, and they both gazed at the leaf together. The leaf does not fall and become lost. It falls and becomes part of the earth again. It returns to the ground where it decomposes, nourishes the soil, and gives life to new plants and trees. The leaf, in its letting go, continues the cycle of life. But if it refuses to fall, if it refuses to surrender to the natural flow, it will only wither its energy, trapped in fear. The sound of a bird's call echoed through the courtyard, and the wind rustled the branches. The leaf trembled once more, and in that moment it finally released its grip on the branch. It fell slowly, gracefully spinning in the wind, before landing softly on the earth below. Sato watched it with awe, a quiet understanding beginning to blossom in his heart. This story offers us a quiet, tender reminder about the power of surrendering to the natural flow of life. Just as the leaf clung to the branch, resisting the inevitable fall, we too often find ourselves holding on tightly to things, whether they be relationships, ideas, old wounds, or familiar situations, out of fear. Fear of what lies ahead, fear of uncertainty, fear of the unknown. We become so attached to what we know, even when it no longer serves us, because the thought of letting go can feel like we're losing a part of ourselves. We may fear that without these attachments, we will lose our identity, our security, our sense of control. But as the Zen master so gently reminds us, true peace and freedom do not come from holding on to the past or clinging to what is familiar. In fact, it is only by releasing our grasp that we can truly experience life as it is in all its beauty and impermanence. The leaf, when it finally lets go, doesn't lose its purpose. Instead, it transforms. It becomes part of the earth, nurturing new growth and continuing the cycle of life. Just like the leaf, we too must learn to trust the flow of life. We must learn to trust that by letting go of our attachments, whether they are people, places, or ideas, we are not losing ourselves. We are simply making space for the new and the unknown. We allow ourselves to grow, to evolve, to shift in ways we cannot yet imagine. As Buddha so wisely said, "You only lose what you cling to." When we hold on too tightly, we trap ourselves in a cycle of fear and resistance. Our attachments bind us, causing suffering, anxiety, and stagnation. But when we release our grip, when we allow ourselves to float like the leaf on the wind, we free ourselves from the chains of fear. We open ourselves to the unknown, to the unfolding of life itself. By surrendering to the natural course, we invite peace and possibility into our lives. In our modern world, this is often easier said than done. We live in a society that tells us to hold on tight, to control everything, to make sure everything stays the same. We fear change, we fear loss, and most of all, we fear that by letting go, we will be left adrift. But in truth, it is only when we release our attachments that we can experience true freedom. The leaf, though it falls, is not lost. It continues its journey, returning to the earth to nourish new life. Likewise, when we release our hold on the past, we make space for new experiences, for new growth, and for the beautiful unpredictability of life. By trusting in the natural flow of life, just as the leaf trusts the wind, we invite harmony into our lives. We allow the universe to guide us, to carry us to places we never expected. Letting go is not a loss, but a surrender to the greater wisdom of the world around us. It is the deep quiet knowing that by embracing change, we align ourselves with the rhythm of life itself. Now I invite you to take a quiet moment for yourself. Close your eyes if you like and reflect on your life. Are there places where you find yourself clinging, whether it's to a belief, a relationship, a past version of yourself, or an idea of what life should be? What is it that you are holding on to so tightly? And why does it feel so difficult to let go? Think about how these attachments have shaped your experience. Are they preventing you from moving forward? Are they keeping you stuck in the past, unable to fully embrace the present moment and the future that lies before you? Now imagine yourself gently, quietly letting go of that attachment. Visualize it drifting away like the leaf that finally releases its hold on the branch. Feel the peace that comes with releasing. Know that in surrendering, you are not losing anything. Rather, you are making space for new life, for new possibilities. Trust that the natural flow of life will guide you as it always has, and that by letting go, you are allowing yourself to grow. Let the stillness of this moment wash over you and feel the freedom that comes with surrender. By embracing change, by trusting in the flow of life, you open yourself to new growth, just as the leaf returns to the earth to nourish the soil for the future. As we reflect on the lesson of the leaf that clung so tightly to its branch, we are reminded of the importance of letting go, of surrendering to life's natural flow. With this insight in mind, let us now turn to our next story, where we encounter a profound teaching found in the simplicity of a monk's quiet reflection, in the rain guiding us to face the emotions within, rather than resist them. It was late autumn, and the monastery stood in quiet solitude, enveloped by the mist of the mountains. The weather had turned cold, and the sky was a heavy gray darkening as the afternoon stretched toward evening. The air carried the earthy scent of rain-soaked earth, and the sound of droplets tapping on the wooden roof created a soothing rhythm, as if the monastery itself was breathing in sync with nature. Within the courtyard, the monks were tending to their daily tasks, sweeping leaves, tending to the small garden, and preparing for the evening meditation. But amidst the calm, there was a disturbance. A young monk named Renzo, who had only recently joined the monastery, was standing outside under a large tree, staring into the rain with a look of deep sadness on his face. His eyes were fixed on the ground where the rain had pooled in small puddles. There was something in the way he stood, his shoulders hunched, his hands clenched, that suggested he was holding something inside, something he couldn't let go of. As the monks continued with their work, one of the older monks, Master Haruki, noticed Renzo standing there seemingly lost in his thoughts. Haruki had always been a wise and observant monk, and it did not take long for him to see the quiet suffering in Renzo's posture. He approached him slowly, his sandals making soft whispers on the wet ground. When he reached the young monk, he stood beside him in silence for a moment, simply watching the rain fall. Then gently, Haruki spoke. "Renzo," he said in a voice as soft as the mist surrounding them, "why are you standing here so alone in the rain?" Renzo's head slowly turned toward the master, his face pale, his eyes red from what seemed like unshed tears. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but no words came out. Finally, after a long pause, he whispered, "I am so sad, Master. I feel lost. I cannot find peace in my heart. No matter how much I try to meditate, the sadness never leaves. It feels like it will always stay with me." Haruki nodded softly, his eyes filled with understanding. "Renzo," he said, "you are not alone in your sadness. We all carry pain in our hearts, some of us more openly than others. But it is not the sadness that defines us. It is how we meet it, how we embrace it, and how we allow it to teach us. Renzo looked at Haruki, confusion clouding his face. "But Master," he said, "how can I embrace something so painful? How can I accept this sadness that fills my heart and never seems to go away?" The rain began to fall harder, the droplets now beating down more fiercely on the leaves above them. Master Haruki smiled gently, his eyes filled with compassion. "Sadness, like rain, is not something to resist. It will come. It will stay for a time, and then it will pass. But if we fight it, if we try to push it away, it will only grow stronger. The more we resist, the more we suffer." He paused, turning his gaze to the sky, where the clouds hung heavy, blocking the sun. "Do you see the rain, Renzo? It falls without resistance. It nourishes the earth, cleanses the air, and returns to the sky when its work is done. It does not question itself, nor does it try to stop. It simply is." Renzo looked up at the rain, watching as the droplets splashed onto the ground, forming tiny ripples in the puddles. He felt a small shift in his heart, as if something deep inside him was beginning to open. "But what if the sadness never goes away?" he asked quietly. "What if it stays with me forever?" Master Haruki's gaze softened, and he placed a hand on Renzo's shoulder. "Renzo, every feeling we have, whether joy or sorrow, is part of our experience. The rain does not last forever. It falls and then fades. In the same way, your sadness will not last forever. It will shift, it will change, and eventually it will give way to peace. But you must allow yourself to feel it fully. Do not suppress it. Do not try to outrun it. Simply sit with it as the rain sits with the earth." Renzo felt a small wave of relief wash over him. It was as though in that moment he could see his sadness not as an enemy to be fought, but as a guest in his heart that needed his attention, his compassion, and his patience. "So, I should just cry?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper, as if the very act of asking felt like a confession. Master Haruki nodded gently. "Yes, Renzo. Cry if you must. Let the rain fall. Let your emotions flow freely without shame or guilt. When you allow yourself to feel, when you release what is trapped inside you, give your heart the space to heal. The tears that fall from your eyes are like the rain that nourishes the earth. They cleanse and renew." Renzo took a deep breath, his chest feeling lighter, and allowed himself to stand there in the rain. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in what felt like forever, he allowed himself to cry. The tears mingled with the rain, and the weight in his heart seemed to dissolve bit by bit as he let go of the tightness he had been holding on to. For the first time, he felt truly present with his sadness without fear or judgment. And in that presence, he felt a small but profound sense of peace. This story gently invites us to reflect on the powerful yet often overlooked act of embracing our emotions, particularly sadness, rather than running from them. How often in life do we find ourselves trying to suppress our pain, as if hiding it will protect us from suffering? We build walls around our hearts, convinced that by avoiding our sorrow, we can shield ourselves from the discomfort it brings. Yet, as Master Haruki so tenderly reminds us, true healing does not come from avoiding our emotions. It comes from allowing ourselves to fully experience them, to feel them deeply, without fear or shame. The rain falling steadily from the sky is a perfect metaphor for our emotions. It falls without resistance, freely nourishing the earth below. Our emotions, like the rain, are not something to fear. They come naturally flowing through us, often without warning. But just as the rain does not struggle against the wind, we too must learn to let our emotions flow without resistance. We must allow ourselves the space to feel whatever comes up, whether it is joy, sorrow, anger, or fear. When we resist our sadness trying to push it away, we only hold on to it longer. It lingers, becoming heavier, and keeps us from moving forward. But when we let ourselves feel it fully, when we surrender to it without judgment, we allow it to pass through us. And just like the rain that eventually clears our sadness begins to fade, creating space for peace, healing, and renewal. The Buddha once said, "Pain is certain, suffering is optional." Pain in the form of loss, disappointment, or grief is a natural part of life. It comes to us all at some point in one form or another. But suffering arises when we resist the pain, when we try to control it, deny it, or push it away. It is in our resistance that we find our suffering. However, by allowing ourselves to fully experience our pain, to sit with it rather than fight it, we begin to transform it. What once felt like a burden becomes an opportunity for growth, an invitation to learn about ourselves, our hearts, and our capacity for resilience. In our fast-paced modern lives, it can be difficult to give ourselves permission to feel. We are often taught to move on, to get over it, and to keep going. We are urged to focus on the future, to look for the silver lining, and to avoid lingering in sadness. But true peace and healing do not come from suppressing our emotions. They come when we make space for our feelings, when we allow ourselves to experience them fully. Just as the rain nourishes the earth, our emotions, when fully felt, nourish our hearts and souls. In doing so, we free ourselves from the burden of repression, from the weight of emotions held too long in the darkness. We invite in the possibility of healing and renewal like the earth after a long cleansing rain. Now I invite you to take a moment for yourself. Close your eyes gently and allow your thoughts to slow down. Reflect on your own life. Are there emotions you have been resisting, pushing away in the hope they will disappear? Perhaps sadness, grief, or disappointment that you have been afraid to fully feel. Or is there a part of you deep inside that feels heavy or trapped, waiting for permission to be released? Think about what it might be like to allow yourself to feel those emotions just as they are without trying to control them, judge them, or push them away. Imagine yourself standing in the rain, like Renzo, allowing your tears to mix with the falling droplets, feeling your heart soften with each release. In that moment, know that you are not weak for feeling. You are simply human. And by embracing your emotions, you open yourself to the possibility of healing. Remember, just as the rain comes and then fades, so too do our feelings. They are not permanent, but when we allow them to be felt, when we give them the space they need, they pass more quickly, leaving behind a sense of lightness, peace, and clarity. As we learn from the monk who embraced his sorrow in the rain, we are reminded of the strength that comes from facing our emotions without resistance. In the same way, our next story invites us to explore a powerful lesson in patience, waiting, and the wisdom found in stillness. Let us now turn to the tale of the cat that waited at the gate, embodying the practice of acceptance and presence. It was a quiet morning in the monastery, the kind where the world seemed to pause and breathe, wrapped in a soft, still silence. The sun had just begun to rise, casting long golden rays over the stone walls and the delicate flower beds in the courtyard. The monks were gathered for morning meditation, each seated in their usual place, their eyes closed, their minds slowly coming to rest. The scent of incense lingered in the air, a gentle reminder of the sacredness of the moment. But outside, just beyond the gate of the monastery, something unusual was happening. A small cat had wandered into the courtyard and now sat silently at the gate, staring out into the world beyond. The cat was not a part of the monastery. yet it had chosen to come and rest in this peaceful space, observing the monks as they meditated. For days, the cat remained by the gate. It never wandered too far, never ventured into the gardens or the halls, but it sat there still and patient, as if it had come to teach something. The monks noticed it, but no one disturbed it. They simply went about their day practicing as they always did, with the cat sitting quietly at the gate as a silent witness. One day, the abbot of the monastery, Master Shin, approached the cat. He was a wise and gentle monk, known for his deep understanding of Zen and the quiet way he carried himself. He saw the cat sitting there, its gaze steady, its body completely still, as if it were waiting for something. Curious, the abbot knelt down beside the cat and whispered softly, "What is it that you wait for, little one?" The cat did not move. Its gaze remained fixed on the world beyond the gate. The abbot smiled softly, recognizing the simplicity in the cat's quiet presence. "Ah, you wait for nothing, do you?" he murmured. "You wait because you know that life does not need to be rushed. You understand that sometimes stillness is enough." From that moment on, the cat's quiet presence became a teaching in itself. The monks began to understand that, like the cat, there was wisdom in simply waiting. Waiting without expectation, without grasping, and without the need to act. The cat did not sit there because it wanted something, nor did it sit there out of boredom. It sat simply because it was content to be fully aware of the present moment, fully present with the world around it. As the days passed, the cat's presence began to influence the monks. During their meditation, they began to feel the stillness more deeply, just as the cat felt the stillness of the courtyard. They began to notice how the cat's waiting was not passive or empty, but rather an embodiment of mindfulness, a way of being in the moment without needing to force anything. The cat had no agenda, no desire to change anything, and in that quiet acceptance, it showed the monks how to live with presence and peace. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars began to emerge in the sky, the cat stood up, stretched, and silently walked away. It had come, it had sat, and now it was leaving. No one knew where it had gone, but in that moment, the monks felt a deep sense of gratitude. The cat, without ever speaking a word, had imparted a powerful lesson. Sometimes the greatest wisdom lies in simply being still and accepting the present moment without trying to control it or change it. This story offers us a quiet, profound lesson about the power of stillness and patience. The cat's gentle presence at the gate teaches us that sometimes the best way to approach life is not through constant doing, striving, or seeking, but through stillness, by simply allowing life to unfold without rushing, without forcing, and without clinging to expectations. In the rush of modern life, we are often swept up by a relentless desire to do, to achieve, to become something more. We chase success, we chase happiness, we chase meaning, and yet there is often a feeling of dissatisfaction, as though we are running towards something but can never quite catch it. The cat, in its simplicity, reminds us that perhaps the secret is not in running at all, but in stopping to simply be. The presence of the cat sitting quietly by the gate is a reminder that stillness is not the absence of life as we may sometimes believe. It is in fact the purest form of life, where everything can unfold naturally, where we can be present with ourselves and the world as it is without needing to change anything. In our busy modern lives, it is so easy to overlook the beauty of this stillness. We are constantly bombarded with distractions, urgent emails, constant deadlines, the pressure to perform and succeed. The noise of the world can often drown out the soft whisper of peace that resides in the quiet moments of our lives. As the Zen master and philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." This simple truth is embodied in the cat's stillness. The cat does not rush. It does not strive or force anything. It simply is. And in this being, it experiences the fullness of life, without attachment to the past or the future, without the need to push for more. It knows that true peace and fulfillment come not from achievement, but from being present with what is. The cat's quiet patience is an invitation for us to let go of the constant striving and embrace the present moment as it is. In our own lives, it can be so difficult to allow ourselves to be still. We live in a world that constantly encourages us to do more, to achieve more, to become more. We are told that success and fulfillment lie in constant action and pushing ourselves to the limit. But in truth, peace and contentment arise when we allow ourselves to rest in the moment, just as the cat rests at the gate. When we stop chasing, stop forcing, and simply allow ourselves to be, we open ourselves to the world as it is without needing to change anything. We begin to see that in stillness there is richness, in presence there is peace, and in accepting what is there is freedom. Like the cat, we too can learn to wait patiently without expectation, waiting without grasping, without longing for something different. In this quiet waiting, we allow the world to unfold on its own, and in doing so, we allow ourselves to rest deeply in the peace that is always available to us. We don't need to search for it. We don't need to push for it. It is right here in the present moment, in the simple act of being. Now, I invite you to take a moment to reflect on your own life. Are there areas where you are rushing or grasping for something more? Perhaps you find yourself constantly pushing to reach the next goal, seeking the next achievement, or trying to fix things that feel broken. Are there moments when you feel restless, as though you are forever moving, but never quite arriving? Take a deep breath and consider what it would feel like to simply stop like the cat and wait. What would it be like to sit quietly without expectation and allow the present moment to unfold naturally? Imagine yourself in a peaceful place, fully present, not needing to do anything, just being. Allow yourself to feel the stillness around you and within you. Know that just like the cat at the gate, you are enough in this moment. There is nothing you need to chase, nothing you need to change. You are already whole. Imagine the peace that comes when you release the need to constantly strive, and instead, rest in the moment, fully attuned to the world around you. Trust that by simply being you are participating in the flow of life in the most profound way. Now that we have embraced stillness, let us now turn to the story of the broken bowl, which teaches us to let go and transform our struggles into growth. In a small Zen monastery nestled at the foot of a mountain where the days were long and the nights calm, there was a simple, humble bowl that had been passed down from generation to generation. It was not a bowl of great beauty or ornate design, but it was cherished by the monks who used it. This bowl had been with the monastery for many years, used during meals for collecting alms, and as a symbol of simplicity and humility. It was beloved not for its appearance, but for the quiet comfort. It provided a vessel that carried both sustenance and meaning. One day, during the usual morning preparations, a young monk named Taro was tasked with cleaning the kitchen and the utensils. Taro was still new to the monastery, having arrived just a few months earlier, full of energy and eager to prove himself. In his enthusiasm, he hurried through his duties, rushing to complete them quickly, so that he could move on to other tasks. But in his haste, he knocked the cherished bowl off the counter. The bowl fell with a soft but unmistakable sound of ceramic hitting the stone floor, breaking into several pieces. Taro froze, his heart racing. He looked at the broken pieces scattered across the floor, each shard a painful reminder of his carelessness. He immediately began to panic, thinking of how disappointed the abbot would be, how terrible it would be to break such a valuable item. He scrambled to pick up the pieces, trying to put them together as best as he could, but the cracks were too deep. The bowl was beyond repair, shattered beyond its former state. Taro felt a wave of shame wash over him. He feared the repercussions. What would the other monks think? What would Master Hiroshi say? He could feel the weight of his mistake pressing down on him, as if the entire monastery was watching him in this moment of failure. He took the broken pieces to the abbot, his hands trembling. Master Hiroshi, an elderly monk with a serene presence, took one look at Taro and the broken bowl, then smiled softly. He didn't scold Taro or express disappointment. Instead, he invited the young monk to sit with him in the garden. "The bowl is broken, but it does not define you," Master Hiroshi said quietly. "Come sit with me." Taro followed, still filled with guilt, unsure of what to say. He sat beside the master, both of them looking out at the peaceful garden where the gentle breeze rustled the leaves and the flowers swayed in rhythm with the wind. It was a beautiful moment of stillness, but Taro couldn't shake the weight of his mistake. "Master, I am so sorry for breaking the bowl. It was my fault. I wasn't careful enough." "What will we do now?" Taro asked, his voice full of remorse. Master Hiroshi's voice was calm, like the gentle flow of a stream. "Taro, the bowl has been broken, yes, but why do you hold on to your sorrow as if it were something permanent? The bowl, like all things in life, is impermanent. Things break, things change. That is the nature of life. What matters is not the breakage, but how we respond to it. The bowl has fulfilled its purpose, and now it is time for it to return to the earth. We must learn to embrace the impermanence of all things." Taro sat quietly, trying to understand the depth of the master's words. But Master, the bowl was important. It had meaning. How can something so precious just be discarded so easily? Taro asked, still struggling with the sense of loss. Master Hiroshi smiled gently, his eyes twinkling with quiet wisdom. The bowl's value was not in its perfection, Taro. Its value was in the way it was used, in the simple acts of nourishment and humility it carried. When it broke, it did not lose its meaning. In fact, in its brokenness, it teaches us something far more important than perfection ever could. It teaches us about the nature of impermanence, about the beauty of accepting change, and the wisdom in letting go. Taro felt a shift in his heart as he absorbed these words. He had spent so much of his life trying to avoid mistakes, trying to keep everything perfect, that he had never truly understood the deep lesson of impermanence. The broken bowl wasn't a failure. It was a reminder that nothing in life lasts forever. Everything changes, and the beauty of life is in embracing that change, not resisting it. Master Hiroshi continued, "There is no need to hold on to regret. The bowl is gone, yes, but what remains is the lesson it leaves behind. Every imperfection, every break is an opportunity for growth. When something breaks, it creates space for something new to emerge. You see, the bowl is not gone. It is simply transformed, and you too are transformed in the process." Taro sat in silence, feeling a deep sense of peace settle in his heart. The guilt that had been clouding his mind began to dissipate, like the morning fog lifting to reveal the light of the day. He looked at the broken pieces of the bowl and realized that, like the bowl, He too had been broken in certain ways, by his own expectations, by his fear of failure, and by his resistance to change. But now, with the Master's words echoing in his heart, Taro began to understand that his own brokenness was not something to fear or hide. It was a part of the natural flow of life. This story offers us a gentle yet profound lesson about the nature of impermanence and the beauty of embracing the inevitable changes that life brings. Much like the broken bowl, which shattered and transformed into something else, we too are constantly changing, evolving with each passing day. Life itself is a series of transitions, some small, some large, but all contributing to our journey. And yet, how often do we find ourselves trying to avoid mistakes, striving for perfection, or clinging to the way things once were? We are taught to avoid failure, to keep things intact and flawless, as though imperfection were something to be feared or avoided. But in doing so, we miss the deeper, more gentle truth. Imperfection is not something to fear. It is simply part of the natural flow of life, a flow that we are all a part of. Master Hiroshi's wisdom quietly reminds us that the true value of the bowl was not found in its flawless form, but in how it was used. It wasn't the bowl's perfection that made it meaningful, but the way it served, how it held food, how it shared nourishment, how it was woven into the fabric of daily life. Similarly, our value is not determined by our ability to avoid mistakes or maintain an illusion of perfection. Instead, our true worth comes from the way we live our lives, how we show up in each moment, how we treat others, and how we respond to the inevitable changes and challenges that arise. Our lives, like the bowl, may become cracked or broken along the way, but those cracks are not signs of failure. They are the marks of a life well lived, a life that has embraced its imperfections with grace. The Buddha's teaching that nothing is permanent, not even our troubles, offers us a deep and tender truth about the nature of life. The broken bowl is a symbol of the impermanence of all things, our possessions, our experiences, and even our own lives. We often find ourselves clinging to things, fearing loss, trying to hold on to moments that have already passed. But it is in the very act of releasing, of letting go, that we create space for something new, something more. When we stop clinging to the past, when we stop trying to hold on to what is no longer serving us, we make room for growth, for new experiences, and for the wisdom that arises from accepting life as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, we can easily become overwhelmed by our attachment to control, to certainty, and to permanence. We fear change because it feels unsettling. We fear loss because it brings pain. But true peace comes not from resisting these natural forces, but from accepting them as part of our journey. Just as the broken bowl, once discarded, returns to the earth to nourish new growth, so too can we allow our own losses and struggles to nourish the growth of wisdom, understanding, and compassion within our hearts. The wisdom lies not in avoiding impermanence, but in learning to dance with it, to embrace the ebb and flow of life with an open heart. The wound is the place where the light enters you, Rumi reminds us. It is in the cracks, the imperfections, and the moments of vulnerability that we find the space for healing and transformation. By embracing impermanence, by letting go of what no longer serves us, we open ourselves to the beauty of what is yet to come, new growth, new lessons, and new opportunities for deeper understanding. Now I invite you to take a moment to reflect on your own life. Are there areas where you are still clinging to something, whether it's a belief, a relationship, a past hurt, or even a fear of failure? These attachments, no matter how deeply ingrained, often hold us back from moving forward. What might it feel like to release them, to accept that life is in constant motion and that imperfection is not something to fear, but something to embrace? Imagine yourself like the broken bowl, gently letting go of what no longer serves you. Imagine the sense of freedom that comes with releasing your grip on the past, trusting that by surrendering you are opening yourself to the possibility of new growth, new wisdom, and new experiences. Know that even in your imperfection, you are whole. Just as the bowl's cracks did not diminish its value, neither do your struggles or imperfections diminish your worth. You are part of life's beautiful, imperfect flow, and by embracing that, you invite healing and transformation into your life. As we reflect on the broken bowl and the wisdom of accepting imperfection, we come to understand that life's lessons often come from our most vulnerable moments. Let us now turn to the next story of the echo in the empty valley, where we learn how the world reflects our inner state. High in the mountains, far from the busy towns below, there was a remote Zen monastery, known for its peacefulness and simplicity. The monks there lived in harmony with nature, tending to the gardens, practicing meditation, and engaging in quiet reflection. The monastery was located in a valley surrounded by towering cliffs and thick forests, where the air was always crisp and the mornings were filled with the sounds of birdsong and the rustling of leaves. One day, a young monk named Takumi, who had only recently come to the monastery, was meditating in the courtyard. His thoughts, as always, were restless, his mind a swirling mass of worries and distractions. He had not yet learned to quiet his inner turmoil, and the stillness of the monastery felt like an overwhelming silence, one that only seemed to highlight the noise in his mind. Takumi had heard the monks speak of the beauty of silence and the deep peace it could bring, but he had not yet experienced it himself. Instead, he felt as though the silence around him only intensified his inner restlessness, making him feel more isolated and disconnected from everything. He was struggling to find his place in the monastery, unsure of what he was supposed to be doing, what he was meant to learn, or how to find peace within himself. One afternoon, Takumi went for a walk in the valley, hoping the fresh air and the beauty of nature would calm his mind. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the valley. As Takumi walked along the narrow path that wound through the trees, he came to a small clearing at the edge of the forest. He paused to take in the view the valley spread out before him, the distant mountains covered in mist, and the silence that seemed to stretch on forever. Curious, Takumi stepped into the clearing and for the first time felt completely alone. No monks were nearby, no sounds except the occasional rustle of leaves. He stood there in the quiet, feeling both overwhelmed and strangely isolated. He opened his mouth and called out, "Hello." His voice echoed off the valley walls, and Takumi stood still listening as the echo bounced back to him, carrying the word "hello," repeatedly fading away in the distance. He called again, louder this time, and again the echo responded, repeating his voice back to him, but with a strange sense of emptiness. Takumi was startled by the sound, and it left him with an uneasy feeling in his chest. The echo seemed to go on forever, reverberating throughout the valley. He called once more, but this time he heard not just the echo of his own voice, but a subtle shift in the sound, a kind of hollow emptiness that made him feel even more alone. At that moment, the head monk, Master Kenji, appeared behind him. Takumi had not noticed him at first, but now he stood quietly beside him, looking out at the valley with calm eyes. Takumi turned to the master and said, "Master, I hear the echo of my voice in the valley, but it feels empty. Why does the echo sound so hollow, so distant? Master Kenji smiled softly and placed a hand on Takumi's shoulder. Ah, you have heard the echo, he said. The echo you hear is not just the valley repeating your voice. It is also your mind reflecting back your own thoughts and feelings. When we speak or think in the world, it is not just the external world we are engaging with. It is also our inner world, our own mental state that shapes what we hear. Takumi's brow furrowed, and he looked back at the valley, still unsure of what the master meant. But why does the echo sound so empty? Why does it feel as though it is not real? Master Kenji's voice was gentle as he spoke, his words filled with patience and understanding. The echo is like the thoughts in your mind. When your mind is empty, when it is calm and still, the echoes that return to you are clear and peaceful. But when your mind is full of noise, worry, and distractions, the echoes become hollow. They reflect the dissonance within you. Your mind is like the valley. If it is full of clutter, the echo will only reflect back that clutter. But when your mind is still, when it is clear, the echoes will return with peace. Takumi's eyes widened as the realization began to settle in. So the emptiness I feel in the echo is not because the valley is empty, but because my mind is. Master Kenji nodded. Exactly. The world is a mirror reflecting back to us what is within. If our hearts and minds are full of unrest and chaos, the world will seem distant and hollow. But when we practice stillness, when we clear our minds and hearts of unnecessary noise, the world begins to reflect back peace. Takumi stood in silence, feeling the weight of the master's words. It was as if a veil had been lifted, and he could see for the first time the deep connection between his inner world and the world around him. The echo in the valley had shown him that the noise in his mind was what had been causing his sense of emptiness. And it was only through stillness and mindfulness that he could begin to hear the true voice of peace within himself. This story offers us a tender yet profound teaching about the intricate relationship between our inner world and the external world we experience. Just as Takumi's voice echoed back to him in the quiet, empty valley, so too do our thoughts and emotions reverberate through our lives, shaping how we perceive everything around us. The world we see, the people we interact with, the situations we find ourselves in, is often a mirror reflecting our own internal state. When our minds are filled with noise, worry, or anxiety, we inevitably perceive the world through a lens clouded by dissonance. This inner turbulence can make us feel disconnected, as though something essential is missing. But what we fail to realize is that the emptiness we feel is not something that exists outside of us. It is a reflection of our own inner landscape. Buddha wisely said, "Your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own unguarded thoughts." This powerful insight shows us just how much influence our thoughts have over our experience of life. Our inner dialogue, the narratives we tell ourselves, and the emotions we hold on to have the ability to shape our reality in ways that we may not fully understand. If our minds are preoccupied with distractions, worries, or fears, the world around us appears fragmented and unsettling. The echoes of these thoughts, these worries, doubts, and fears fill our hearts with emptiness, leaving us feeling unfulfilled, as though we are constantly seeking something we cannot find. Yet when we choose to cultivate stillness within our hearts, when we practice mindfulness and meditation, we begin to hear a different kind of echo, a peaceful, harmonious reflection of the world, just as it truly is, without the noise of our inner turmoil clouding our perception. In the busy, often overwhelming pace of modern life, we are surrounded by distractions, voices, screens, schedules, and expectations. It can feel as though our minds are never fully at rest, always chasing the next task. the next responsibility, the next goal. But true peace, as the story reveals, comes when we allow ourselves to simply be still. In the quiet moments when we release the need for constant action, when we let go of our compulsive striving, we create the space for presence. In this stillness, we can hear the world as it truly is: calm, peaceful, and full of beauty. The world mirrors back to us whatever we hold within. If we carry peace and clarity inside, we will see those same qualities reflected in the world around us. If we carry chaos and dissonance within, we will perceive the world through that lens. This is the beautiful and gentle reminder that the echo we hear in the valley of our lives is shaped by the state of our hearts and minds. Just as Takumi's voice echoed back in response to the turmoil within him, the world around us responds to the thoughts and emotions we carry inside. If we want to hear the world's true harmony, we must first cultivate it within ourselves. Take a moment now to reflect on your own inner world. What echoes are you hearing in your life today? Are they filled with noise, worry, or distractions that cloud your peace? How do these echoes shape how you experience the world and the people around you? Perhaps you find yourself overwhelmed by constant thoughts or emotions that prevent you from truly hearing and experiencing life. Now picture yourself standing in the vast open valley of your heart. As you stand in the silence, take a deep breath and gently let go of the distractions and noise within. Allow the clutter of your thoughts to fade into the distance. Let the echoes of peace and stillness begin to fill the space within you. In this moment, feel the warmth of the present, the calm of the world just as it is, and trust that as you embrace this stillness, you will begin to hear the world with new clarity, full of beauty, harmony, and connection. In this stillness, you are enough. You do not need to do anything or be anything more than what you already are. By quieting the noise within, you make room for the world to speak to you in its truest form. And in this, you find the peace you've been searching for all along. Having discovered the connection between our inner state and the world around us, we now turn to a story that invites us to explore the stillness within, even amidst the turbulence of the mind. Let us now delve into the lesson found in the moon's reflection, still and serene, despite the disturbance of the surface. In a small secluded village by the edge of a serene lake, there lived a humble Zen monk named Ryo. His monastery was nestled among the gentle slopes of the hills that surrounded the lake, and the monks who resided there had lived in quiet contemplation for many years. The air was always cool and fresh, and the sounds of nature, the rustling of leaves, the chirping of birds, and the soft ripples on the water created an atmosphere of deep peace. This was a place where time seemed to slow, a place where the monks could immerse themselves fully in meditation and the teachings of Zen. Ryo was a monk known for his deep devotion to his practice, yet despite his many years of meditation, he still struggled with the restlessness in his heart. He had been practicing for many years, but something within him felt incomplete. Each day he sat on the wooden floor of the monastery, breathing deeply and focusing on the present moment, yet his mind seemed unable to settle. The more he tried to quiet his thoughts, the more they seemed to multiply like ripples on a pond that spread and stretched farther than he could control. One evening, after a particularly long day of meditation, Ryo walked to the lake to clear his mind. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a soft silver glow on the surface of the water. The scene was breathtakingly beautiful. The lake's surface was still reflecting the moon so perfectly that it looked as though the moon had descended to rest upon the water itself. The peacefulness of the scene seemed to call out to him. But even as he gazed at the reflection, Rio felt a familiar restlessness stirring in his chest. Rio sat at the edge of the lake, his legs folded beneath him, his gaze fixed on the moon's reflection. But as he stared, something caught his attention. The moon, so clear and still on the surface of the water, began to tremble slightly, ripples forming around it. The sight disturbed him, and he leaned forward, his heart beating faster. "Why does the moon tremble?" he asked aloud, as though seeking an answer from the water itself. "Is it not perfect, not clear?" At that moment, the head monk, Master Kaito, who had been walking quietly behind Rio, approached and sat beside him. He smiled gently, sensing the unease in Rio's question. "Why do you say the moon trembles?" Master Kaito asked. Rio pointed to the water, where the moon's reflection had shifted slightly with each ripple. "I see the reflection of the moon, and yet it is not still," Rio said. "The moon seems to tremble, to waver. What is the cause of this? Why is the beauty of the moon disturbed by the water's ripples?" Master Kaito looked at Rio, then turned his gaze to the moon, which hung as serenely in the sky as it ever had. He spoke softly. "Rio, the moon itself is not trembling. The water is moving. The surface is disturbed, and as it ripples, it reflects the changes in its own state. The moon remains, as it is unchanged and perfect, just as it always has been." Rio looked back at the water, still trying to understand. "But does not the reflection of the moon appear to tremble with the ripples? Does that not affect the clarity of the moon's image?" Master Kaito smiled, his eyes filled with wisdom. "The reflection of the moon is like your mind. When your mind is disturbed by thoughts, worries, and distractions, it seems that your perception of the world, like the reflection of the moon, is unclear. But the moon itself, like truth and peace, remains unchanged. It is only the ripples in the water, the turbulence of your mind, that distort the view. The truth is always present, still and perfect. But if your mind is restless, it will seem as though the truth itself is trembling or uncertain." Rio sat quietly, the words sinking into his heart like gentle drops of rain. For the first time, he began to understand the nature of his own inner restlessness. His struggles in meditation, his feeling of unease, were not because peace was unattainable or out of reach. It was because his mind, like the water, was disturbed. The truth, the peace he sought, was always present, like the moon in the sky. It was simply the ripples of his thoughts that made it seem distant. This story gently unfolds a profound and timeless lesson about the nature of clarity and peace in our lives. Much like the moon, which remains still and perfect in the vastness of the night sky, true peace within us is also constant, ever-present, and unchanging. No matter how dark or turbulent the world around us may seem, peace remains at the core of our being, undisturbed, like the moon untouched by the ripples of the lake's surface. Yet when our minds become clouded with worry, when we are overwhelmed by the waves of thoughts and emotions, that inner peace can seem distant, distorted, and out of reach. In those moments of restlessness, we may feel disconnected from the world, as though we are caught in the chaos, unable to find our way back to the calm and clarity we seek. It is in these moments that we forget the truth that the stillness of life, like the moon, is always there, patiently waiting for us to recognize it. Our mind may feel turbulent, but the essence of who we are, the peace, the wisdom, the clarity, is not disturbed. It simply waits like the moon, ready to reveal itself as soon as we stop stirring the waters within us. As Buddha said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. This wisdom speaks directly to the essence of this story. The moon is always present, reflecting the stillness and serenity of the night sky. The moon itself does not change with the tides of the water or the winds of the earth. It is our perceptions and our restless minds that cause the ripples obscuring the clear reflection. Peace is always available to us, but it is only when we quiet the turbulence of our thoughts and emotions that we can truly see and experience it. In our modern world, we often find ourselves overwhelmed by the noise in our minds. The constant influx of thoughts, distractions, fears, and worries create ripples on the surface of our awareness. These ripples cloud our perception, making it feel as though peace is unreachable, far away from the chaos of our daily lives. We forget in those moments that peace is not something we need to search for. It is already within us, just as the moon is always in the sky, whether we see it or not. Our external circumstances may change, and life may bring challenges that disturb the surface of our minds. Yet the truth remains, peace is constant, unwavering, and ever-present, waiting for us to reconnect with it. This story encourages us to pause, to take a step back, and to notice the ripples within us, the distractions, the fears, the endless noise of the mind, and gently bring our focus back to the stillness that resides deep within. It invites us to allow the mind to settle, to soften, and to embrace the quiet that is always available, even amidst the chaos. When we allow our thoughts to quiet, when we let go of the turbulence within, the reflection of peace becomes clear and serene, just as the moon reflects perfectly when the water's surface is calm. And in that clarity, we can see the beauty of life, not as something to control or fear, but as something to experience fully with open eyes and an open heart. Now take a moment to turn inward and reflect on your own life. Are there areas where you are caught in the ripples of worry, fear, or distraction? Perhaps there are thoughts, doubts, or emotions that are clouding your sense of peace, making it hard to feel the calm that lies within. What might it feel like to release those ripples, to let go of the turbulence, and simply allow yourself to rest in stillness? Imagine yourself like Rio, sitting by the lake, watching the moon's reflection on the water. As the ripples settle and fade, the reflection becomes clearer, more beautiful. In the same way, when you allow the ripples of your mind to subside, the peace within you becomes more apparent. Trust that peace is always present, waiting patiently, just as the moon is always there, shining in the sky, even when it's hidden by clouds or ripples. Take a few deep breaths and allow yourself to become still. Know that in this stillness, you do not need to strive to reach or to do anything. Simply allow yourself to be just as you are, knowing that the clarity you seek is already within you, waiting to be seen. Having learned that true peace lies in the stillness within, untouched by the turbulence of our thoughts, we now turn to a story that reveals the importance of simplicity and clarity. Let us now explore the lesson found in the story of the woman with too many lamps, teaching us the power of letting go of unnecessary distractions. There was once a woman who lived at the edge of a small village, surrounded by fields of flowers and rolling hills. She was known throughout the village for her radiant smile and her generous heart. Every time someone walked by her house, they would see her sitting on her porch, her eyes glowing with warmth as she greeted the world with kindness. Her house, though modest, was always bright, filled with the gentle warmth of many lamps. Each lamp, old and new, was carefully placed around the rooms, casting a soft, inviting glow that made anyone who entered feel welcome and at ease. But one day, a traveling monk passed through the village and noticed something strange about the woman's house. He had heard of her hospitality and her kindness, and so he decided to visit to offer her some teachings, hoping to share some wisdom with her. As he approached the house, he was taken aback by the sight. The windows of the house were filled with the glow of countless lamps, each one flickering and casting shadows on the walls. Yet despite the brightness, there was something about the light that seemed off. It was not warm or peaceful. Instead, it felt like the house was filled with a kind of restlessness. The monk knocked gently on the door, and the woman greeted him with her usual smile. "Welcome, traveler," she said. "I have many lamps here, and they bring warmth and light to my home. Please come in." The monk entered the house and sat down at her table. He looked around, noticing the lamps in every corner. There were lamps on the tables hanging from the ceiling and placed in the windows. Some were large, some small, some new, and some old. The more he looked, the more he realized that each lamp was vying for attention, each one trying to outshine the other. The light in the room was bright, but the intensity of the many lamps created an odd sense of confusion, as if the light was fighting against itself. The monk smiled gently and spoke. "You have many lamps here, each one giving light. But have you ever wondered, dear woman, why the light is not as peaceful as it should be? There is too much light, too many lamps, and no space for the calm, steady glow that you seek." The woman's face softened, and she looked down at the table, her fingers tracing the edges of the lamp nearest her. "But master," she said, "the lamps bring warmth and light. Why should there be anything wrong with having so many?" The monk's voice was calm, full of gentle wisdom. "The lamps you have are like the distractions in your mind. Each one is a thought, a desire, a worry or a worry about something you think you need. You try to fill every corner of your life with these thoughts, each one competing for your attention, each one pushing the others aside. But in doing so, you lose the peace that comes from simplicity. The light, no matter how bright, becomes overwhelming." The woman looked at him a bit puzzled. "So what should I do? Should I turn off the lamps? Should I get rid of them?" The monk smiled softly, his eyes kind. "No, you need not turn off the lamps or rid yourself of them entirely. But you must learn to find the one lamp that brings the greatest light, the one that truly nourishes your heart and illuminates the space with peaceful clarity. By letting go of the lamps that do not serve you, you will create space for the light that truly matters. When there is too much light, the room becomes chaotic. But when there is a single steady flame, it will shine peacefully, guiding you with its gentle glow." The woman sat in silence for a long while, contemplating the monk's words. She looked at the many lamps around her house, each one casting a shadow in its own way, each one pulling her attention in a different direction. Slowly, she began to understand what the monk meant. It was not about having fewer things, it was about being selective in what she allowed to occupy her mind, her heart, and her space. It was about embracing simplicity, not to remove everything, but to allow only the most important things to remain. Over time, the woman began to reduce the number of lamps in her home. She didn't need to get rid of all of them, but she carefully chose the ones that truly brought peace, warmth, and light. With each lamp, she removed the light and her house grew calmer, gentler, more peaceful. Eventually, she found a single lamp that illuminated her space with perfect simplicity without overwhelming her senses. The light was soft, steady, and clear, just as her mind and heart began to be. This story gently invites us to pause and reflect on the many distractions in our own lives, the things we hold onto, the thoughts we cling to, and the desires that pull us in all directions. Like the woman with too many lamps, we often fill our hearts and minds with so much clutter, believing that each thought, each possession, each obligation is essential for our happiness or security. Yet in doing so, we create an internal chaos, a kind of mental clutter that prevents us from experiencing the true peace and clarity that lies within. The very act of filling every space with activity with distractions can block the light of inner wisdom, leaving us with a sense of incompleteness, even if outwardly everything seems to be in order. The lamps in the woman's house are symbolic of all the unnecessary things we accumulate over time, whether they are material possessions, relationships that no longer serve us, or patterns of thought and worry that take up space in our minds. These lamps are not inherently bad, but when we accumulate too many, when we try to hold on to everything, we can lose sight of what truly nourishes our spirit. The light they provide may be bright, but it lacks the softness and warmth of simplicity. It is a light that is constantly flickering and competing for our attention, leaving us feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. Buddha's words: "You can search throughout the entire universe for someone who is more deserving of your love and affection than you are yourself, and that person is not to be found anywhere." Remind us of the importance of self-compassion and the need to clear away the distractions that prevent us from fully embracing ourselves. The lamps in our lives often symbolize the thoughts, worries, and distractions that keep us from truly loving ourselves. They represent the fears, doubts, and expectations that we allow to take up residence in our hearts, blocking the peace that is already there. By removing the things that no longer serve us, whether they are physical, emotional, or mental, we create space for the light of peace, love, and wisdom to shine more brightly, more clearly. In the world we live in today, we are constantly bombarded by the demands of life. Work, family, social media, societal expectations. All of these things pull at us, filling our minds with constant noise. We feel pressured to do more, to be more, to acquire more, to keep up with the constant stream of information and activity. This modern life can often feel like a room filled with too many lamps, each one shining its light in a different direction, pulling us away from the present moment, from the peace that is always within us. The story gently reminds us that peace is not about adding more to our lives. It's about simplifying, letting go of what no longer serves us, and making space for what truly matters. It's about learning to embrace the quiet simplicity that brings true peace to our hearts. When we simplify, when we clear away the unnecessary lamps, we find that we can experience life more fully. We begin to recognize the beauty and the peace that has always been available to us, but which was obscured by the clutter we had accumulated. Just like the woman who eventually chose the one lamp that illuminated her home with warmth and clarity, we too can choose to focus on what truly nourishes us, whether it's the people we love, our passions, or the simple moments of stillness that allow us to reconnect with ourselves. Take a moment now to reflect on your own life. What lamps are you holding on to that no longer serve you? What thoughts, habits, or distractions are you allowing to take up space in your heart and mind? Are there areas in your life where you feel overwhelmed, as though there is too much light, too much noise, and not enough peace? Imagine yourself like the woman gradually removing the lamps that no longer nourish your spirit. With each one you release, feel the space. You create space for calm, space for clarity, space for love and peace. Allow yourself to feel the quiet that fills this space, knowing that in the simplicity of letting go, you make room for a deeper, more profound light to shine through. Trust that as you simplify, the true light of peace will shine brighter and clearer than ever before, illuminating your path and guiding you with its soft, steady glow. After reflecting on the wisdom of the woman with too many lamps and the clarity that comes from simplicity, we now turn to a story that contrasts growth and decay, showing us the lessons found in life's cycles. Let us now explore the tale of the dying tree and the blooming weed, where we learn about resilience, transformation, and the unexpected beauty in life's most challenging moments. In the quiet courtyard of the Temple of Still Winds, there stood a magnificent Bodhi tree. Its roots were vast, stretching deep into the earth, and its branches arched gracefully toward the sky, offering shade to the monks who meditated beneath it. The tree had been there for as long as anyone could remember, a symbol of strength, endurance, and the steadfast nature of life itself. Generations of monks had sat under its branches, finding solace and inspiration in its deep, silent presence. But over the years, the tree had begun to show signs of aging. Its leaves, once lush and green, had started to turn brown, and its bark had begun to crack. One by one, the monks noticed that the tree, which had once been a source of life and nourishment, was now slowly withering. The once mighty branches drooped, and the air around it, which had once been filled with the gentle rustling of leaves, had become eerily still. The monks, though accustomed to impermanence, began to feel a sadness in their hearts as they watched the great tree's decline. It was as if they were witnessing a symbol of life itself fading away. Despite their efforts to nourish it, the Bodhi tree continued to wither. The monks gathered around it each day, offering prayers, chanting, and tending to the soil. But nothing seemed to restore the tree to its former glory. The seasons changed, and still the tree's decline continued. The monks began to accept that the time of the great tree was coming to an end, as all things must. Yet despite the tree's slow death, there was a strange sense of peace in the temple. For the monks had learned that death was not the end, but merely a transformation. One morning, as the monks gathered in the courtyard, one of the younger monks, named Daiichi, noticed something unusual. Beneath the sprawling roots of the dying tree, a small weed had begun to grow. At first, it seemed like just another insignificant plant, but over the course of the week, the weed began to bloom. It sprouted small, delicate yellow flowers, their petals bright against the muted backdrop of the tree's fading leaves. The flower's appearance was so unexpected, so vibrant, that it caught the attention of every monk in the courtyard. Daiichi knelt beside the small plant, his hand gently brushing against the petals. He turned to the elder monk, Master Jin, who had been watching the scene in quiet contemplation. Master Daiichi said softly, "Look at the weed. It blooms even as the tree withers. How is it that such a small, fragile thing can flourish when the mighty tree which has been here for so long is dying?" Master Jin looked at the blooming weed, his eyes full of wisdom. "Ah, Daiichi," he said, his voice low and thoughtful. "The tree has given all it can. It has stood tall for many years, offering shade, shelter, and strength to those who came to it. Its purpose is complete. Now it must return to the earth, where it will nourish the soil for future growth. The weed, however, is a reminder that life does not stop with death. The life of the tree does not end in its passing. It transforms. Just as the weed grows from the soil that the tree's roots have nourished, so too does new life emerge from the remnants of the old." Daiichi sat quietly absorbing the master's words. He looked at the small, vibrant weed, its flowers standing out against the backdrop of the dying tree. "So, Master," he asked, "the tree's death is not a failure, but a part of the cycle of life?" Master Jin nodded gently. "Exactly. The tree's decline is a natural process, just as its growth was. Death is not something to fear, nor is it an end. It is simply a transformation, a passing of energy from one form to another. The tree has given its life, and now it will return to the earth, where it will help nourish new life. Just as the weed grows in the space left by the tree, so too do new possibilities emerge from what we perceive as loss. The weed is not here to replace the tree. It is here to continue the cycle of life. In the soil left behind by the old, new growth emerges. This story offers us a tender yet deeply powerful lesson about the cyclical nature of life and the impermanence that defines all things. The body tree, once strong, towering, and vibrant, now stands in quiet decline. Its leaves have turned a golden hue, and its once mighty branches are beginning to droop. Yet in its fading, it is not losing its purpose. Rather, it is gracefully making way for new life to emerge. Just as the body tree gives way to the blooming weed, we too are reminded that within every ending there is the fertile soil for a new beginning. The tree's passing is not a tragedy. It is a natural and beautiful part of the cycle of life, reminding us that death and life are not opposites, but two interconnected parts of the same whole. In the dying of the old, there is always the possibility of new life to take root. Every cycle of life, whether in nature or in our own experiences, follows this gentle law of transformation. Buddha, with his quiet wisdom, taught, "All conditioned things are impermanent." When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. The core of his teaching resonates deeply in this story. The body tree's death is not something to mourn, but something to honor. It has given so much over the years, providing shelter and nourishment, and now it will return to the earth. From its body, new life will grow. In the impermanence of all things, we find the very essence of life itself. Nothing in this world is meant to last forever, but in this truth lies freedom. For when we understand that everything is in constant flux, life, relationship, seasons, and even our inner struggles, we can release our attachment to permanence. We can stop resisting the inevitable and begin to trust the process. In modern life, we often find ourselves struggling with loss, whether it's the loss of a loved one, a job, a phase of life, or even an idea of ourselves that no longer fits the person we are becoming. We hold on to what is familiar, sometimes even when it no longer serves us, out of fear of the unknown, of change, of what might lie ahead. But true peace comes when we allow ourselves to accept that change is inevitable and that life is always in motion. Just as the tree slowly transforms into the soil that nourishes new growth, so too can we find peace in accepting the impermanence of our experiences. The struggles and losses we face are not something to resist or avoid. They are part of the soil from which new growth, wisdom, and understanding will rise. The blooming weed is a symbol of this. Small, seemingly insignificant, it rises from the very space that the tree once occupied, showing us that there is always new life, new possibilities, and new opportunities in the spaces that appear empty or lost. What we perceive as loss, whether it is the death of something we cherish, a dream that has slipped away, or a chapter of our lives that has ended, is often the fertile ground for something even more beautiful to emerge. It is not the end, but a transition into something new, a new beginning. Instead of resisting change, we can learn to trust in it, to embrace it with open arms. For in every ending, there is always the seed of a new start. Now I invite you to take a moment to reflect on your own life. Are there areas where you feel you are clinging to something that no longer serves you? Perhaps a belief, a relationship, or a part of yourself that no longer fits the person you are becoming. These attachments, though they may have once served you, can prevent you from embracing new opportunities for growth and change. Imagine yourself like the body tree releasing what no longer serves you. It may not be easy, and it may take time, but trust that just as the tree's passing nourishes the soil for new life, your own act of letting go creates space for new growth to bloom. By allowing yourself to release what is no longer aligned with who you are becoming, you invite the possibility of something new, something unexpected to enter your life. Embrace the cycles of life, the beginnings and the endings, knowing that each one brings with it the potential for transformation and growth. Remember, with every ending, there is always the seed of a new beginning waiting to unfold in its own time. Having witnessed the quiet strength found in the dying tree and the blooming weed, we now turn to a story that delves deeper into the inner battles we all face. Let us now explore the story of the boy who learned to embrace his inner struggles and find wisdom through them. In a mist-covered village at the edge of a dense forest, there lived a boy named Nari. From the moment of his birth, it was said that he had been touched by a powerful force, as if the very lightning had kissed his heart during a fierce storm on the night he was born. His mother spoke of him with a mix of awe and concern, for from a young age Nari experienced vivid dreams, loud, terrifying visions that filled his nights with shadows. In the quiet of his room, strange figures would creep across his walls, faces with hollow eyes, tall and thin, their limbs too long, their mouths too wide. At first, the shadows were just that dark, shifting shapes in the corners of his mind. But as Nari grew older, they became more real, more vivid. They began to speak to him, whispering things he didn't understand, murmuring in languages he could not recognize. He tried to ignore them, to convince himself that they were simply dreams. But the shadows were persistent. Every time he was alone, they returned at night in the corners of his room, or sometimes in the quiet moments when his thoughts wandered. Their voices filled the silence, murmuring fears, regrets, and unspoken desires. Nari began to dread the dark, the solitude, and the quiet. His heart, once light and curious, began to grow heavy with the weight of these unseen forces. One day, after a particularly frightening encounter with the shadows, Nari fled into the forest. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew he couldn't stay. His thoughts were clouded with fear, and he felt as though the shadows were closing in on him from all sides. His legs moved on their own, carrying him deeper into the thick trees far from the village, far from the safety he once knew. The forest was dense, and the air was heavy with moisture. Every step he took seemed to stir something deep inside him, a restlessness he couldn't explain. As Nari wandered deeper into the forest, he came across an old man sitting by a fire. The man was dressed in simple robes, his face weathered by time, yet his eyes were sharp, filled with a quiet, penetrating wisdom. The fire crackled softly, and the smell of warm food filled the air. The man looked up at Nari and smiled as if he had been expecting him. "You've come," the old man said softly, his voice warm and inviting. "Sit with me." Nari, feeling a strange pull toward the old man, sat beside him, his heart still racing with anxiety. The shadows in his mind seemed to quiet, but he could still feel their presence lurking just beyond the edges of his thoughts. The old man studied Nari for a long moment, his eyes kind yet knowing. "I've been seeing things," Nari confessed, his voice trembling. "Dark things, shadows that speak to me, that torment me. I don't know how to make them stop." The old man nodded, as though he had heard this before. "The shadows are not outside of you, Nari. They are within you. They are your fears, your anger, your guilt, your shame. They are the parts of you that you've tried to avoid, tried to push away. But the more you resist them, the stronger they grow. Nari's eyes widened and he looked away, unable to meet the old man's gaze. What can I do? I can't live with them. They haunt me. The old man's voice remained gentle yet firm. You must feed them. Feed them. Nari echoed, confused and alarmed. But how can I feed them? They're the very things I want to escape. The old man smiled, his eyes glinting with understanding. The demons you face are not your enemies. They are parts of you misunderstood and neglected. You've been running from them, starving them of your attention. But the more you ignore them, the more they will consume you. To free yourself, you must face them. You must feed them with your compassion and your acceptance, not with fear. Nari was silent, processing the man's words. He couldn't understand how he could possibly feed the very demons that tormented him. How do I feed them? He asked, his voice softer. Now his curiosity piqued. The old man reached into his bundle and pulled out a small, simple wooden bowl. He placed it in Nari's hands. Take this bowl, he said. Each night when the demons come to you, instead of running from them, sit with them. Listen to them. Offer them your attention, not with fear, but with compassion. Hear their stories, understand their pain, and give them a seat at your table. As you feed them with acceptance, they will transform. They will no longer have the power to torment you. They will become teachers. Nari felt a shift deep within him. He had been so afraid of the shadows, so intent on driving them away, that he had never thought to simply sit with them. The idea of facing them head on, of feeding them with compassion rather than fear, felt strange, but something in his heart resonated with the wisdom in the old man's words. Perhaps this was the path to peace. That night, Nari returned home to the village. He did not fear the shadows anymore. He knew they would come, but instead of running, he would face them. He would offer them the bowl of his attention, listening with compassion and understanding. Over time, the shadows began to fade, their grip loosening. They were no longer terrifying, but instead, they became his teachers, showing him the parts of himself he had been too afraid to face. This story gently invites us to explore the tender and profound practice of embracing the parts of ourselves that we so often fear or wish to hide. Nari's demons, the shadows that haunted him, were not external forces, but reflections of his own inner struggles. They were his fears, his anxieties, and his unresolved emotions, parts of himself that had been ignored or suppressed over time. These shadows, much like the parts of ourselves we reject or fear, grow stronger. The more we push them away, the more we resist them. The more we try to outrun them or bury them deep within, the more they seem to take control, rising up in ways we don't fully understand. But it is not until we meet them with compassion, until we offer them the bowl of our attention and presence, that we can begin to transform them. Buddha's words resonate deeply here, as he once said, "You are the source of all things. Your thoughts create your reality." This teaching carries a profound truth. The inner world we create for ourselves shapes the world we experience. Our thoughts, emotions, and internal dialogues influence how we perceive the outer world. When we are caught in the grip of fear, anxiety, or self-doubt, we project these feelings outward, and the world around us seems to reflect that inner turmoil. But when we sit with our emotions, especially the ones we fear most, when we approach them with gentleness and compassion, they begin to lose their power over us. In fact, They can transform from sources of fear into sources of wisdom. The shadows we once avoided become the very teachers we need, guiding us toward understanding growth and inner peace. In our modern world, we are often conditioned to suppress uncomfortable emotions or avoid confronting parts of ourselves that feel painful or unsettling. We may feel shame, fear, or anger, and we are taught to dismiss these feelings as weaknesses or something to overcome quickly. But the story teaches us that these emotions are not our enemies. They are parts of us waiting patiently for our attention, for our love, and for our acceptance. These emotions are like hidden treasures waiting to be uncovered and understood. When we face them with compassion, when we offer them the space to be heard without judgment, they transform into powerful teachers, showing us where we need to heal, where we need to grow, and where we need to release old limiting beliefs. Our inner struggles, our fears, and even our perceived weaknesses can become powerful catalysts for transformation and healing when we choose to embrace them with kindness. Rather than running from these parts of ourselves, we learn to sit with them. We listen to their stories, we allow them to express their pain, and we understand the lessons they are here to teach us. By feeding our inner demons with the nourishment of acceptance and understanding, we free ourselves from their control, allowing them to lose their grip on our hearts. We shift from a place of resistance to a place of surrender, where we no longer fear our emotions, but recognize them as valuable messengers of our inner truth. This story reminds us that we are all in the process of learning, growing, and healing. The parts of ourselves that we once feared or ignored are often the very parts that hold the key to our liberation. By embracing them with compassion, we unlock new levels of understanding and wisdom. And in doing so, we open the door to peace. Peace with ourselves, peace with our past, and peace with the world around us. Take a quiet moment now to reflect on your own life. Are there areas within yourself, perhaps fears, insecurities, old wounds, or past experiences that you have been avoiding or running from? What parts of yourself have you rejected, dismissed, or feared? What might it be like to sit with those feelings instead of pushing them away? Imagine as Nari did, offering those inner parts of yourself the bowl of your attention, gently listening to their stories without judgment. What might these demons have to teach you? What wisdom and healing lie beneath the surface of your struggles waiting to be uncovered? Allow yourself to embrace these parts of yourself with warmth and tenderness, knowing that by doing so, you open yourself to transformation. By offering compassion to the places inside you that have felt neglected or hidden, you invite healing and growth into your heart. Trust that in feeding your inner struggles with love and understanding, you will find the peace and clarity you've been seeking. Having explored the journey of the boy who learned to face his inner demons and transform them into wisdom, we now turn to a story that invites us to consider the endless possibilities and paths that life offers. Let us now step into the Temple of 10,000 Doors, where we discover the profound lesson of choice direction and the infinite doors to wisdom waiting to be opened. There was a temple in the eastern mountains, hidden from the world by mist and ancient trees, that no one could enter the same way twice. It was called Senji, the Temple of 10,000 Doors, and it was said that once you entered, the path to the heart of the temple would shift depending on the door you chose. Some doors were large and ornate, carved from the finest wood, adorned with intricate designs of lotus flowers and bamboo. Others were small, humble, and seemingly insignificant, tucked away in corners or behind tall hedges. But no matter which door you chose, it would always lead you deeper into the temple. The temple's walls were covered in moss, and the air was thick with the scent of incense. The courtyard was a serene place, filled with the gentle sound of water flowing from a nearby fountain and the soft rustling of leaves. The monks who resided there had lived in quiet meditation for years, each of them guided by the teachings of the temple and the wisdom passed down from generation to generation. One day, a young woman named Hana arrived at the temple. She was weary not from travel, but from life itself. Hana had recently gone through a series of personal losses, her job, her relationship, and the death of her father. These losses had left her feeling adrift, uncertain of who she was or where she was meant to go. She had heard of Senji and its teachings and hoped that the temple would help her find the answers she was seeking. Upon her arrival, Hana was greeted by a monk at the entrance of the temple who led her to the first door. It was large, beautiful, and carved with intricate patterns, and as the monk opened it, Hana stepped inside. She was immediately struck by the beauty and stillness of the room beyond. There were soft cushions on the floor, a small altar in the corner, and the faintest scent of jasmine in the air. But as she stepped further into the room, she began to feel uneasy. It was almost as if the walls of the room were closing in on her, and she couldn't quite put her finger on why. After a few moments, Hana turned to the monk and asked, "Is there another way through? I feel as if I'm meant to move on, but something feels off." The monk smiled gently, nodding his head. "Of course," he said. "This door is only one way, but the temple has many doors, and each one will lead you to a different experience. If this one does not feel right for you, try another." Confused, Hana stepped back and exited the room, unsure of what to do next. The monk guided her to another door, this time smaller and unadorned. Hana hesitated but stepped through it. As she passed through, she felt a gentle sense of calm wash over her. The space beyond was simple but beautiful, an open courtyard with a small pond and a single tree standing tall in the center. Hana sat beneath the tree, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face and the cool breeze on her skin. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, letting the stillness settle into her being. As she sat there, she realized something important. She wasn't looking for one simple answer or a singular path. She'd been so caught up in trying to figure out the right way to move forward that she had forgotten the importance of simply being in the moment. The doors of the temple were not just physical passages. They were symbolic of the choices she had in life, the different paths she could take. There wasn't just one way to go forward, one path that would give her all the answers. Life, like the temple, was full of possibilities. As Hana sat there, the abbot of the temple, a quiet man named Ryu, approached her. "You have chosen a door," he said softly. "But remember, there are 10,000 doors in this temple, each offering its own wisdom and experience. The door you choose is not the end of your journey, but just the beginning." Hana looked at him, a new understanding settling within her heart. "I thought I had to find the right door," she said. "The right answer to everything." The abbot smiled gently. "There is no one right way. There are many ways to walk through life, just as there are many ways to walk through this temple. The journey is not about finding a single door to happiness or peace. It is about choosing the path that feels true to you at each moment. And sometimes the path will change. That is the nature of life." Hana nodded, feeling the weight of the abbot's words. She realized that, like the doors in the temple, life would continue to offer her different paths. Some would be easy, some would be difficult. Some would lead her to beautiful experiences, while others might challenge her in ways she didn't expect. But it was all part of the journey, part of the process of discovering who she was meant to be. This story invites us to pause and reflect on the multitude of doors in our lives, the countless paths, choices, and experiences that are constantly before us. Just as Hana entered the temple of 10,000 doors, so too are we presented with an infinite array of possibilities, each one offering a unique opportunity for growth, discovery, and transformation. The temple itself serves as a perfect metaphor for life, vast, complex, and full of potential. Yet for many of us, the sheer number of choices can sometimes feel overwhelming. We may find ourselves searching desperately for the right door, the right answer, or the perfect path that promises to lead us to peace, fulfillment, or happiness. But the deeper lesson, as the abbot gently reminds Hana, is that there is no singular perfect path. Life is not a neat linear journey, but a series of twists and turns, unexpected opportunities, and moments of uncertainty. Each door we open, whether it leads us to joy, challenge, or confusion, is part of the unfolding of our unique story. This story does not have a fixed destination, but is instead a continuous exploration of self-discovery, where each choice, each step, brings new wisdom and deeper understanding. As Buddha once said, "When you realize how perfect everything is, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky." This teaching invites us to embrace the perfection of life as it is in all its uncertainty, complexity, and imperfection. Life, with all its choices and changes, is perfectly imperfect. It's not about finding the right answer or chasing after an idealized vision of happiness. It is about fully experiencing each moment with all its ups and downs and trusting the process of living. Every door we choose, every path we take is an opportunity to learn, grow, and engage with the world around us in a deeper, more meaningful way. The journey, not the destination, is where the true beauty of life resides. In the modern world, we are often taught to seek certainty, to find the one clear direction that will guarantee success, happiness, and security. We are encouraged to define our lives according to external expectations, whether they come from society, family, or ourselves. We are often told that there is a right path, a right way to live, and that if we just follow it, everything will fall into place. However, true peace comes not from striving to control every aspect of our lives, or from finding a single answer to all our questions. True peace comes when we release the need for certainty and embrace the beauty of uncertainty. Just like the 10,000 doors in the temple, life is full of choices, each one bringing with it its own unique experiences, challenges, and lessons. The story of Hana reminds us that there is no one right way to live. Life is not about forcing ourselves into a predetermined mold, but about trusting the unfolding process, even when the way ahead is unclear. Each door, each path is a learning opportunity, a chance to explore new possibilities, to discover who we are and what we are meant to offer the world. There is no single path that holds all the answers, but each step we take brings us closer to the truth of who we are meant to become. In letting go of our attachment to a fixed destination or idealized future, we open ourselves to the richness of the present moment and the wisdom that comes from fully engaging with life as it is. Take a moment now to reflect on your own life. Are there doors you've been hesitant to open? Are there paths you have avoided because they seemed uncertain, unfamiliar, or intimidating? Perhaps you've been waiting for the right answer, the perfect time, or the ideal conditions before making a choice. What would it feel like to release the need for certainty and instead simply allow yourself to walk through the doors that feel true to you in each moment? Imagine standing before a door, not knowing exactly what lies beyond it. Feel the uncertainty, but also the excitement of possibility. Trust that whatever lies behind the door, it will bring you the lessons and experiences you need to continue your journey. Embrace the beauty of the unknown, knowing that each step, each choice is part of your unique path, unfolding in its own time. The wisdom, the peace, and the joy you seek are not found in a fixed destination. They are found in the journey itself, in the act of walking through the doors one by one. After reflecting on the countless doors of possibility in the Temple of 10,000 Doors, we now turn to a story that reminds us of the light we carry within, even in the darkest moments. Let us now enter the tale of the candle that lit the dark, where we learn about the quiet power of inner illumination and the peace that comes from embracing the light within us. In a small, secluded village at the edge of a great forest, there stood an ancient monastery, known for its peacefulness and the wisdom of its monks. The monastery was nestled on a hill, surrounded by thick woods and a quiet flowing river. In the heart of the monastery's courtyard, there was a small stone building that housed a single humble candle. The candle was simple, unadorned, and flickered in the quiet corners of the monastery, offering warmth and light to the monks who passed by. The candle had been in the monastery for as long as anyone could remember. Though small and modest in its appearance, it had a profound significance. It was said that the candle's flame had been passed down through generations of monks, each of whom had tended to it with great reverence. It was not just a source of light, but a symbol of the inner light that each monk carried within themselves, the quiet, steady flame of wisdom and mindfulness that guided their lives. One winter evening, as a fierce storm raged outside, the monks gathered in the main hall for meditation. The wind howled through the trees, and the rain fell in torrents tapping against the windows. Inside, the air was thick with the warmth of the fire, the incense, and the quiet rhythm of breathing. Yet amidst the peaceful atmosphere, something unexpected happened. The wind howled with such force that it rattled the windows, and the flickering candle in the corner was suddenly extinguished. The room, which had been bathed in soft light, was now plunged into darkness. For a brief moment, the monks sat still, unsure of what to do. In the absence of the light, the room felt heavier, more oppressive. The storm outside seemed to reflect the disquiet that had suddenly crept into the hearts of the monks. They sat in the darkness, feeling lost, their minds no longer anchored by the gentle light of the candle. After a few moments, one of the younger monks, Tetsu, stood up quietly. He was a monk new to the monastery, having arrived only a few months earlier. Tetsu had not yet learned the deep, unspoken rhythms of the monks' practices, but he had already begun to sense the importance of stillness and presence in their lives. He walked over to the small stone table where the candle had been placed, and without hesitation, he reached down and lit a new candle from the flame of the fire. As the small candle flickered to life, the room gradually began to illuminate, casting soft shadows on the walls. The monks, who had been caught in the grip of the sudden darkness, now sat in the gentle glow of the candlelight once again. The room, though still simple, now felt warm and peaceful. Tetsu returned to his seat, but something had changed in the room. The monks no longer felt lost in the dark, for the light was there once more, a reminder of the steady presence that could be found even in the deepest shadows. Master Jin, the head monk of the monastery, looked at the young monk with quiet admiration. "Tetsu," he said gently, "you have brought light back to the room not just through the candle, but through your presence. It is not the light of the candle that is important, but the light that you carry within yourself. In the darkness, you did not panic, you did not wait for someone else to act. you took the initiative to bring light to restore balance. Tetsu looked up a little surprised by the master's words. But master, it was only a candle, he said, his voice filled with humility. I just lit it because I didn't want the darkness to remain. Master Jin smiled gently, his eyes filled with understanding. The candle is more than a simple object, Tetsu. It is a symbol of the inner light that each of us carries. In times of darkness, when we feel lost or uncertain, it is easy to forget that the light we seek is already within us. The external world may plunge us into darkness, but it is our own light, our awareness, our mindfulness, our compassion, that can always restore balance and guide us through. Just as you lit the candle in this room, so too can you light your own heart when the darkness of confusion, fear, or doubt arises. Tetsu sat quietly, the weight of the master's words settling into his heart. He understood now that it was not the external sources of light that mattered most, but the internal light that he carried within himself. The candle, though simple, was a reminder of the light that was always available to him, even in the darkest times. It was a light that came from within, from the stillness, from the mindfulness that he had been learning to cultivate. This story offers us a quiet, profound lesson about the nature of light and darkness in our lives. The candle, though small and unassuming, is a powerful symbol of the inner light that resides within each of us. In the story, when the candle is extinguished, the monks are briefly plunged into darkness. For a moment, they feel lost, disoriented by the absence of the light they rely on. It's in this moment of absence that they begin to realize how much they have come to depend on external sources of comfort and guidance, how easily they forget the light that resides within them. And yet, when Tetsu lights the new candle, the room is once again filled with warmth, peace, and a sense of safety. The flickering flame is a reminder that true light does not come solely from external sources, it comes from within. In those moments when the external world feels dark or overwhelming, it is easy to forget that the light we seek is not something to be found outside ourselves, but something that has always been within. It is in the stillness of the heart, the calmness of the mind, the quiet presence that we cultivate through mindfulness, that we reconnect with the light we carry. Buddha's teaching. There is a light that shines beyond all things on earth. It is the light that shines in your heart echoes this profound truth. This light, the light of our true essence, is always present, always shining quietly within us, even when it feels obscured by the noise and turbulence of life. It is the light of wisdom, of compassion, of awareness, and of peace. We often look outside ourselves, searching for answers in the world, in other people, or in material success. Yet the true answers, the light we seek, are not outside us, but within. When we allow ourselves to connect with that inner light, we rediscover peace, clarity, and the courage to navigate the challenges we face. In modern life, it's easy to become overwhelmed by external circumstances, stressful work situations, difficult relationships, financial concerns, or the noise and distractions of the world around us. When the world feels chaotic or uncertain, we often forget that the light we are seeking is already within us, waiting to be noticed. We may feel lost or disconnected, but in those moments we have the power to return to our inner light. This light does not flicker and fade with the external world. It is steady and constant. It is not affected by the storms of life. It remains always present, waiting for us to reconnect with it. The beauty of this lesson is that just like the candle in the story, our inner light is not something we need to go out and find. It is always there within us. We are not dependent on the external world to provide us with light, peace, or answers. By turning inward and trusting in the wisdom that resides in the quiet corners of our hearts, we can navigate even the darkest moments with clarity and calm. The candle does not shine by force. It shines simply by being just as we are when we allow ourselves to rest in the stillness of the present moment. Take a moment now to reflect on your own life. Are there moments when you feel overwhelmed by darkness? Perhaps you're facing a challenge, or you feel a sense of disconnection, doubt, or confusion. In these moments, can you remember the light that lies within you? Imagine yourself like Tetsu lighting the candle of your own inner wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness. See the flame gently flickering warm and steady, casting light in the darkness. Trust that no matter how dark the world may seem, your inner light is always there, quietly guiding you toward peace, clarity, and understanding. Know that the external world may be full of uncertainty, but your own light, your own heart is steady and constant. You don't need to search for the answers outside. They are already within you, waiting to be rediscovered. Allow yourself to trust in the stillness and the peace that comes from simply being present. When you stop looking outside yourself for answers, you will find that the peace you seek is already within your reach. Trust in the light that you carry inside. Having witnessed the quiet, guiding light of the candle that illuminated the dark, we now turn to a story that invites us to confront the shadows in our own lives. Let us now explore the tale of the snake in the garden, where we learn about the temptations and challenges that arise on our path and the wisdom found in facing them with awareness. In a tranquil village surrounded by lush fields and serene hills, there was a peaceful garden that belonged to an elderly Zen master named Ryota. His garden was famous for its beauty. Vibrant flowers bloomed in colorful abundance. The trees were laden with fruit, and the air was sweet with the scent of jasmine and rose. Every morning, Ryota would tend to his garden, pruning the branches, pulling the weeds, and carefully nurturing each plant. He was known throughout the village for his wisdom and his calm, composed nature, and the garden had become a place where people would come to seek his guidance. One afternoon, as Ryota was walking through the garden, he noticed something unusual. A snake had slithered into the garden, its sleek body moving silently through the underbrush. It was not uncommon for snakes to appear in the area, but this one seemed different. There was a sense of unease in the air, as if the snake was more than just an ordinary visitor. Ryota knelt down and watched the snake for a moment, sensing that something deeper was unfolding. A young monk named Daichi, who had recently joined the monastery, came walking along the garden path and noticed the snake as well. He immediately felt a surge of fear rise within him. He had always been afraid of snakes, and the thought of one being so close to the garden made him uneasy. His heart began to race and his breath quickened. Master Ryota Daichi called out, his voice trembling. "There is a snake in the garden. Should we not chase it away? It could be dangerous." Ryota, without a word, continued to watch the snake as it moved gracefully through the grass. "Daichi," he said softly, "come sit with me." Daichi hesitated, still feeling a deep unease in his chest, but he trusted his master and slowly made his way over. He sat beside Ryota, keeping a wary eye on the snake. Master Daichi said, still unable to shake his fear, "Why do you not chase it away? Aren't we supposed to protect this garden from harm?" Ryota turned to Daichi, his expression calm but knowing. "Daichi, the snake is part of the garden. It is not here by accident. It is simply doing what it was born to do. It is not our enemy, nor is it an intruder. It is part of the natural balance of life." "But Master Daichi protested, the snake scares me. How can we allow it to stay?" "Ryota, smiled gently and motioned for Daichi to watch the snake more closely. "Notice how the snake moves," he said. "It does not rush, nor does it seek to harm. It moves with purpose, with stillness. It is not the snake that is the problem, but the fear you have of it." Daichi's eyes widened as he watched the snake. It was indeed moving with calm, deliberate motions, its body weaving through the grass with quiet grace. As he watched, his fear began to soften. "But what if the snake bites me?" he asked, still uncertain. Ryota's smile deepened. Daichi, fear is a reaction, a habit of the mind. It arises when we believe that something outside of us can harm us. But the truth is that fear is always born in the mind. The snake itself does not wish to harm you. It is simply living its life, doing what it has always done. And you too must learn to live without fear. When you stop fearing the snake, you will see that it is not an enemy. It is just another part of this garden. Daichi sat in silence, the weight of his master's words sinking in. For the first time, he noticed the beauty of the snake's movements, the way it blended with the rhythm of the garden, moving in harmony with the natural world. He no longer saw the snake as a threat, but as part of the greater whole. After a long pause, Ryota spoke again. "Daichi, life is full of snakes, of fears, of challenges, of things we cannot control. But it is not the snake that causes us harm. It is our attachment to fear, our resistance to what is that causes suffering. When we can sit with the snake, when we can accept it as it is, we find peace. We no longer need to chase it away or avoid it. We can simply be with it, and in that stillness, we can find the wisdom that life has to offer." Daichi nodded, his heart opening as he understood. He no longer felt the same fear he had when he first saw the snake. He felt a sense of peace, knowing that in the garden, everything had its place, even the snake. This story offers us a profound lesson about the nature of fear and the importance of acceptance in our lives. Daichi's fear of the snake mirrors the fears we all carry within us, fears of the unknown, of loss, of failure, and of the things we cannot control. These fears often arise in response to external events, and we believe that by resisting them or avoiding them, we can protect ourselves. But as the story shows, it is not the external fear, the snake, that harms us. It is our reaction to it, our attachment to fear itself, that causes suffering. Buddha once said, "Fear is the root of all suffering. Overcome fear, and all suffering will cease." This teaching invites us to look deeper into the nature of our fears. We are often caught in the habit of fearing what we cannot understand or control. But in doing so, we miss the beauty of life as it is. The snake, like our fears, is a natural part of life. When we stop resisting it, when we allow ourselves to be present with it, we realize that it does not have the power to harm us unless we give it that power. In modern life, we are often taught to avoid discomfort, to run from things that scare us, or to control every aspect of our lives. But true peace comes when we learn to sit with our fears, to accept them as part of the human experience, and to recognize that they do not define us. Just as the snake in the garden is part of the natural order, so too are our fears, part of the human journey. When we accept them, we stop giving them the power to control us. True wisdom and peace come when we stop resisting the things that scare us. Instead of running from our fears, we learn to embrace them, to understand them, and to integrate them into our lives. Like the snake in the garden, our fears are not our enemies. They are simply part of the rhythm of life, and when we stop fighting them, we can find a deeper sense of peace and acceptance. Take a moment now to reflect on your own life. Are there fears you've been running from, avoiding, or resisting? What are the snakes in your life? Those things that bring up fear, uncertainty, or discomfort. How might it feel to sit with these fears, to observe them without judgment, and to allow them to simply be? Imagine yourself in the garden, sitting peacefully with the snake, no longer afraid, but present with the moment. Feel the calmness that arises when you stop resisting. Trust that in embracing your fears, you will find wisdom and peace, just as the snake becomes a part of the garden rather than a threat to it. After reflecting on the challenges and temptations symbolized by the snake in the garden, we now turn to a story that brings us closer to the ultimate truth. Let us now journey to the final moments of the Buddha, where we witness the profound wisdom in his last breath, offering us a timeless lesson on life, death, and the path to liberation. As the days began to fade into twilight, there was a small group of monks gathered around the bed of their master. They had traveled far and wide, witnessing the endless flow of seasons, the endless cycle of life. Now, in the final moments of his life, the great teacher, the Buddha, lay quietly in his chamber, surrounded by his closest disciples. The air was still, and the atmosphere was thick with reverence and awe. The world outside, though untouched by time, seemed to pause in respect to the Master's final moments. For many years, the Buddha had walked the earth, teaching the path to liberation, spreading the wisdom of the middle way, and sharing the profound peace of mindful living. His teachings had illuminated the hearts of countless beings, guiding them toward inner peace, understanding, and the cessation of suffering. Yet now, the Buddha lay on his bed, preparing to leave the world. His body, though frail and worn by age, still radiated the serenity and wisdom that had always defined him. As his disciples gathered around him, many of them wept. Their hearts were heavy with grief, for they knew that once the Buddha left this world, they would no longer have his presence to guide them. They had walked the path with him for so long, and now they were faced with the unimaginable reality of his departure. The Buddha, sensing their sorrow, opened his eyes and spoke to them in a voice that was as calm and steady as ever. "Do not grieve for me," the Buddha said, his voice soft, but filled with clarity. "The body you see before you is but a temporary vessel, a form that will return to the earth, as all forms do. Do not be attached to it, for it is not the body that has given you wisdom, but the teachings you have received. It is the teachings, the understanding of the impermanence of all things, that will guide you. Even in my absence, you must walk the path of awakening. It is not my body that will continue to guide you, but the wisdom that is within you, the wisdom that I have shared with you." The monks listened intently, their hearts heavy with the weight of his words. They had followed him for so long, but now they understood the Buddha was not leaving them in the physical sense, but was entrusting them with the teachings, with the wisdom that transcended form. He had shown them the way to liberation, and now it was up to them to continue that path on their own. As the Buddha's breath grew slower, his body beginning to release its hold on the world, he spoke once more. "Remember this," he said. "All things are impermanent. The body will grow old, it will decay, and it will return to the earth. But the teachings of the Dharma, the truth of impermanence, and the peace that comes with understanding it, these things cannot be taken from you. They are yours, and they will remain with you as long as you walk the path." And with that, the Buddha took his final breath, his body lying still. The monks sat quietly absorbing his words, the weight of his final teachings settling deeply into their hearts. Though the Buddha's body was no longer with them, his teachings would live on in their minds and hearts passed down through the generations. The peace he had embodied, the wisdom he had shared, would continue to guide them. As they sat there in the quiet of the room, a deep sense of calm and gratitude filled the air. The Buddha had left, but his spirit, his essence remained. The teachings he had shared were timeless, and they would continue to illuminate the path for all beings who were willing to listen, to learn, and to practice. This story speaks to us about the profound wisdom of impermanence and the eternal nature of the teachings of the Buddha. In his final moments, the Buddha reminds us that while the physical body may pass away, the essence of the teachings, truth, wisdom, and peace remains. He urges us not to become attached to the form, for it is not the form that brings liberation, but the understanding of the truth that lies beyond it. As Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. The Buddha's death. His final breath is a poignant reminder of the impermanence of all things, including our own bodies and the world around us. Yet this impermanence is not something to fear. Rather, it is a natural part of the cycle of life, a reminder to live fully in the present moment, to let go of attachments, and to embrace the flow of life as it unfolds. In the face of loss and change, we often grieve as the monks did. But the Buddha's words teach us that grief and loss are a natural part of the human experience. What remains, what endures, is the wisdom and understanding we cultivate in our hearts, the teachings of the Dharma. The deep understanding of impermanence and the peace that comes from accepting it. These are the things that cannot be taken from us. They are ours always, and they will continue to guide us even when the physical presence of those we love or the things we cherish are no longer with us. In modern life, we often fear change, loss, and the passage of time. We cling to what is familiar, trying to hold on to things that are ultimately fleeting. But true peace comes when we learn to embrace impermanence, when we accept that all things change, and when we let go of our attachment to the idea of permanence. The Buddha's final breath reminds us that life is a constant unfolding, and that in each moment we have the opportunity to practice acceptance, to embrace the present, and to live fully in the knowledge that everything, even our own lives, is part of a larger, ever-changing whole. Take a moment now to reflect on your own life. Are there areas where you are holding on to something, afraid to let go because of the fear of loss or change? Perhaps there are attachments to things, people, or situations that you find difficult to release. What would it feel like to embrace the impermanence of life, to let go of the need to control everything, and to simply allow life to unfold as it is? Imagine yourself like the monks in the story, sitting in the stillness after the Buddha's final breath. Feel the peace and clarity that comes from knowing that the teachings, the wisdom, and the peace you seek are always with you, even in times of change and loss. Trust that the teachings of the Buddha, the wisdom of impermanence, the acceptance of life's natural flow will continue to guide you even when things seem uncertain or fleeting. As we come to the end of this journey, let us take a moment to pause, to breathe, and to reflect on the wisdom we have encountered. Throughout these stories, we have explored the many facets of life, the light within us, the impermanence of all things, and the peace that comes from embracing the flow of life as it is. From the gentle reminder that our inner light, like the steady flame of a candle, can guide us through the darkest times, to the wisdom of letting go of our attachments and trusting in the natural unfolding of life, we have learned that true peace does not come from external sources, but from within. We have seen that life is full of choices, full of doors waiting to be opened, each one offering new opportunities for growth, understanding, and transformation. The path to peace is not about controlling the world around us, but about cultivating stillness within, allowing the wisdom of life to unfold in its own time. The stories of the Buddha's teachings, the quiet wisdom of Master Jin, the courage of young Tetsu, and the deep understanding of the silent monk who knew the power of stillness. All of these stories share one common thread: the reminder that peace is always within reach, even in the most challenging moments of life. The wisdom is not in seeking something outside ourselves, but in recognizing the truth that already resides within. It is in the simple practice of presence, mindfulness, and acceptance. Take this wisdom with you as you continue your journey. Know that like the ripples on a still lake, every moment, every breath creates a lasting impact, no matter how small. The light you seek is already within you, and as you continue to practice, you will uncover deeper layers of peace, understanding, and love. As you move through your daily life, I encourage you to take moments to pause, to breathe, and to simply be present. Practice mindfulness in the simple moments when you're walking, when you're eating, when you're listening. Allow yourself to be fully present with whatever arises, knowing that each moment, each breath is an opportunity to connect with your true essence. Allow yourself to embrace life as it is with all its imperfections, knowing that you are part of the ever-unfolding cycle of change and growth. Remember, just as the Buddha taught, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Trust in your inner light. Trust in the process of life, and most importantly, trust in yourself. May your heart remain open, your mind calm, and your spirit peaceful as you continue along your path. May you carry the wisdom of these stories with you, knowing that just as the reflections of the moon rest on the still surface of the water, peace rests within the depths of your own being, waiting to be discovered with each passing moment. Take a deep breath and let it settle in. You are already whole. You are already at peace. Thank you for joining this peaceful journey. May the wisdom you have received continue to illuminate your path, bringing you closer to the calm clarity and compassion that reside within you. Continue to practice, to meditate, and to embrace the beauty of each moment with an open heart. And remember, you carry the light of peace within you always. Sweet dreams, dear one. May your heart be at peace.